Hello and welcome to the Metalheads podcast. My name is George.
And this is Buke.
This is Jay.
And this is episode 43 of the Metalheads podcast. How you guys doing today? What's going on?
I personally am fighting off a head cold. And I think the three of us are fighting our own sickness or illness in our own ways also.
Yep, all three of us actually, yeah.
The trifecta, yeah. Mine's been dragging on for like 2 weeks, dude, and I've just got the last ends of it, but every once in a while I'm just completely stuffed up, so. And George has been sniffing since I've been talking to him today, so.
Yeah, mine just hit a couple days ago, and I blame it on wearing only a hoodie in freezing weather to interview bands.
Yep.
But we'll get to that a little later.
Well, the thing for me is that makes it worse is being a little healthy. I wear a CPAP machine, so very quickly that can take an already stuffed up nose somewhat, and it could just the next morning full blown, you're like gasping to fucking breathe because it's just ramming air down your mouth and nose all night long.
Jeez. So
there's a couple of nights I'll wake up after going to bed with the mask on, like I'm waterboarding myself. So. That doesn't help. And in my world, it's also, and I wanted to get this on record and extend a sincere thank you to you guys and everybody else with the passing of my grandmother. She was extremely close to me. As George, you met her numerous times.
She was awesome.
Just a classic, complete grandma. She's the type of grandma, hey, George, you want something to eat? She'll make you a rack of ribs, smoke them, make you fresh barbecue sauce and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your...
Just a true grandma. And, but, we always remember grandma would tell me not to be sad from her. So I'm not really hung up on grandma anymore. I'm done with you, grandma.
No. But what did you do because you thought grandma would want you to? What did you go out and do?
I went to the record store when I was down in Charlotte.
That's right.
Nice. Well, but, dude, passages. But no, really, dude. Sorry. I'm sorry.
And both you guys said, extremely kind stuff to me. A lot of people on Twitter reached out. I didn't, death is kind of funny in this age that we live in now because it's not my place to ever tell somebody how to heal or cope with loss or something like that. Yeah. But I didn't want to put my business out there because I'm not one for a lot of the fake sympathy stuff. Like I see some people going around. If that's what people want, hey, that's fine. I didn't. So, you guys knew what was going on. And before we get into the pod today, again, just wanted to thank you guys. And I've been in kind of a funk since then because I haven't been getting a lot of sleep because I'm sick. Grandma stuff happened and just wonderful stuff with work.
Well, just look at it this.
Go ahead, George.
Just look at it this way. She's with Lemmy now.
Yes.
Gotta be good.
She's up there going, "Oh, Matthew, if you only knew."
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have been a little quiet. I haven't heard from you as much lately, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, I know you're busy and dealing with shit, but I will just say this, and I don't have to say it on George's behalf, but we love you, brother.
Oh, I love you guys too. I love you guys too. Everything's perfect in my world. Just extremely, just been kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Couple weeks. It's all these things. Grandma was 85 or so. It never makes it easy, but it's. Hey, I was going to work one day, and then, hey, you got the call. And it's like, what?
Yeah, shit's weird.
Yeah, at least you got down there while she was still hanging on. Like I was telling you, we live in Maryland, and my grandmother was down in Atlanta, and she had a stroke, and my parents and I drove down there like 14 hours to get there, and she passed just as we were rolling into Atlanta, so we didn't even get to see her. So I'm glad you got to see your grandma before she left.
Yeah, it was extremely short, but yeah.
It's weird to change this shit, though.
It does, weird. But again, I keep trying to remember what Grandma would want. But hey, people didn't come here to hear us talking about sobby stuff. They came here to talk about metal.
All right. Well, last weekend, Buke and I went to a show here in Frederick, Maryland at the Cafe 611. We went to go see Decapitated with Black Breath and Theories and Chaotica. And some other local bands. Unfortunately, Black Breath canceled the tour, so they weren't there. We didn't find that out until we got there.
Did you hear a reason behind that, by the way?
I saw a press release, but I didn't read the whole thing beyond.
Yeah.
We have to cancel the tour. And
seen
while
them
we were
before?
there, Buke did an interview with Theories, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Cool.
And we were surprised and happy to run into our friends from Yesterday's Saints, Albert and John. And that was probably the best part of the night, except for the interview. What do you think?
I wanted to say this about that night, and I'm glad we have Jay on being a musician and played way more live shows than you and I have, George. Theories, first off, for those who don't know, are a grindcore death band, grindcore with a little death metal from Seattle. We had the pleasure of interviewing Joe, the drummer, Lee, the guitar, and Rick on vocals. Extremely fun time talking to these guys.
But cold.
Extremely cold. But we had a blast talking to them and you're here about their tour, about the band, playing live, about coffee.
All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, all kinds. It was a great conversation. So I go into this so excited to see them. And first off, all these guys look badass. Mm-hmm. This is another one of those metal bands where every single fucking one of them is all tatted up. And from the clothes they wear and everything, they look so badass that when I try to put on the same clothes, I'm like, man, I look fat in this. Maybe I should just get into indie music or something like this. So I get so excited for them. Their set starts and they play like the first song. And then the house sound guy, who looks like he's one of those guys who looks like in a past life, no, not a past life, but looked like a couple of decades ago, he was probably like Winston Cigarette's biggest supporter.
The sound guy. He's like probably late 40s, early 50s, shoulder length, feathered gray hair.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Gray hoodie, gray, pullover sweatshirt, tight jeans, a chain wallet.
Yeah, it was probably in the 70s a real big hit at the roller derby or at the roller skate place. The guy who could do all the fancy roller skate moves.
Yeah, and the board at this place.
Some guy, in between bands goes outside, smoke his Lucky Strike, So I say that because after Theory's first song, his microphone cut off, and I know George edited it out, but I was just fiddling around with stuff. This guy could not stop fiddling with the dials on the sound.
Well, I mean, that's what they do. But the thing is, the soundboard was off to the back right instead of in the center where it should be, and so he kept the whole evening he would be at the board, fiddle with something. He'd run to the middle of the room and stand there and listen for a minute. And then he'd run back to the board and do some twiddling and then run back to the middle of the room. It's just kind of a joke. And,
what I
he may be the greatest sound engineer the world's ever seen, and we just don't know it because the venue and what they have for speakers and gear, it just isn't that good. And it's an odd room. It's not like...
this is the room itself, Jay. The stage is kind of railed off. It's probably 15 by 15, and easily, the pictures they have hanging on the wall, your disco night or swing night could be taking place there any night over metal night. And
it's apparently a restaurant during the day, so I'm assuming that there's tables and stuff that they whisk out of the way in the evening for shows. It's not set up like any other place that I've ever seen shows. It's basically a restaurant with a bar off to one side, and they clear everything out, and there's a little area with literally one step up, and then to the back of that there's one more step up, and that's what the band is on. And so the band pretty much is in the crowd, and it's just not big. I don't think the room's big enough for the sound that they're throwing at it. And so it's just sort of bouncing off all the corners and just sounds crappy. There's not enough room for the music to breathe.
Yeah, that'll fuck you up.
It's like playing in a closet or something.
And that was what I wanted to ask you, Jay. First off, we'll get back to Theories after this because it all ties together. But when you're up there playing, Jay, and you're surrounded by a shitty setup, are you thinking in your head? First off, are you cognizant of it?
Oh yeah, fucks everything.
The sound is being projected out. I saw Rick a couple times was just pissed off that his mic kept cutting out.
Sure.
Lee kept asking for his monitor to be turned up. It was just a disaster.
Well, we've played at such a wide range of places in the Bay Area. range from people who threw a PA together, like, oh, there's a band here tonight, we better get something, you know what I mean, to places that have really nice dedicated stuff. And so I'll just say a couple things. One is, I think it's safe to say that in 50% of the shows we played, I did not hear myself singing at all. Like, and they might have heard me out in front. In fact, I would ask after the show, and I would ask friends and stuff, and be like, "Could you hear me?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, I heard you fine." It's like, I can't hear my voice for shit.
If you can't hear yourself, you don't know what you're doing or how loud it is, or if you're in key or what.
And that's a problem. And then, or you just shout so hard that you just end up screaming, and it just sounds terrible. And then, like, we played this place called Rock Bar in San Jose recently, and it was probably the biggest place we've ever played. They had this huge fucking stage. I mean, literally, it was like a different time where Sergei was than where I was standing. You know what I mean? It was like we were in different time zones, dude. But I could, and we were so far apart that I couldn't hear the drums. And it was, like, as weird as that sounds, I could not hear the drums because the only thing I could hear was my amplifier. Long story short, dude, I used to have anxiety over that, Buke. I did, because I would be like, what's it going to be at this place? I would go and I would just think this could either be a lot of fun or it's going to be really frustrating, and I'm going to, and I won't be able to hear or this or that. So I know the places I like the most, and I can tell you this. The places I like the most are the ones where it's a small place, and what I experience of the music is what I experience in our practice room, which is I hear the drums because I'm standing next to the drums, and I hear the bass because I'm very close to that too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going through some sound system first.
And I feel for these bands.
Me too.
Because after going to real concert venues here in the area, Fillmore, Ram's Head, I feel for them, because even though these guys did not say it during the interview, you would not know that they were not looking forward to it or anything like that, or any of the bands. But you have to walk into a venue like that after playing shows for years and know, oh God, we're not in for something good here.
Uh-huh. And you know what, dude? I have developed that sixth sense in myself, and we're not the most experienced band in the world, but I know when we're walking to a place and it's just gonna suck, and if you remember that we played a show about a week ago, and you put up a funny comment that was 70s night.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Yeah,
it did, because they had this hilarious laser show, and it's this little bar in a place called Crockett, which is a great little town. But I will say this, as soon as I saw those lights and there was two guys in there who clearly, like, sound was like a hobby with them, I was like, this is gonna be fucking great. It was just obvious. No, I mean, like, it was a sincere hobby of theirs. And so I could tell that these guys were going to really work hard to make sure we were comfortable and could hear everything, because they put, like, thought into it. Other places you go in and it's like a 60-watt light bulb and a couple old speakers, and they're like, I don't think that microphone works. You know what I mean? You don't know what you're going to get.
I want to know the thing you mentioned about how it was sort of an anxiety for you about going into a show and not knowing what it was going to be like. Reminded me of dreams that I've had recurring. And I'm not even in a band. I've never played in a live setting. I've only ever played in the studio. And I was wondering if you have these dreams too, being that you do play shows. I have some friends that are in a national touring band, and I've gone on the road with them several times. And I have this dream where I'm with them, and they're like, all right, let's go up on stage. Come on, George. And they slap a guitar on me. And I walk out there, and I'm like, but I don't know any of the songs. And I'm standing out there feeling ridiculous. It's like the going to naked to school dream. And I'm like standing there with a guitar in front on a stage with these guys, and I'm letting them all down because I don't know the songs. Do you ever have anything like that?
No. But when we started playing, I have no shame in telling you that my stage fright was so fucking crippling that we would play, this would have been a couple years ago, and we would play, and I was so nervous that my hands wouldn't work right. Yeah. And I would play really bad. But it just lessened over time. And then also the other thing was, like, the sound thing. The reason I had anxiety over that was because if you can't hear certain parts of the music, it's hard to play. It's hard to play if you can't hear the drummer or this or that. But we've been through enough of them now, and I don't think there's too many weird surprises that I still get a little butterflies before we go on, but that's it. And the other thing is, we have never fucked up so bad. I probably made a huge practice of it for our first 10 shows, I bet, where I would say to my friend's wife or somebody who knew us, like our drummer's wife, I'd be like, she'd say, you guys were great. And I'd always say, I was terrible. I played terrible today. And she'd say, I couldn't tell. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. People can never fucking tell. You have to have a fucking monumentally terrible night for everybody to get to pick up on that. So these days I don't worry about it too much, and I mean, fuck it. Life is short,
But so theories, what the guys do, they come out and it's The floor's packed with people. And they come out there and through all the sound problems and everything, they tore that fucking stage apart.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, the
Raging mosh pit. They're fucking Rick is moshing with the kids. Lee is tearing it up. Kush on bass is playing awesome. Joe on drums is one of the greatest drummers I've ever seen live. Was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, they were really good. And it was right before their set that we sort of walked into something smelly. There was somebody there, and Buke and I were talking about this, and this was the worst smelling person I have ever encountered.
Well, if they're kind of a grindcore band, you must have had a couple of punks in there, and the punks, they don't like the...
Man, it was a younger guy.
Yeah,
It was kind of hard.
Wearing a denim jean jacket.
Yeah, and it's like he died in it and came back or something, because, I mean, there's BO smell.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's rank, but kind of, it's not forceful. It's just sort of a, ew.
Yeah.
This was like an assault on the nose.
Yeah. Like
it was a sharp stinky.
Yeah,
This smells so bad. It's like, I have to get out of here.
Yeah, there was we kept having to move where we were because the dude would get in the pit and just stir that shit around everybody, and it was just it was so nauseating.
And I felt so bad for the bands because he posted up dead center, like a foot from him.
Yeah. I've never smelled anything like that.
Like Pigpen and the,
God.
Wow, that's rough, dude.
So then after Theories, which should have been Black Breath but wasn't, was then Decapitated. And, they suffered from sound issues as well. But man, those guys are some classy professional death metal masters.
Just to take two steps back, I do want to say, I feel twice as bad for those touring bands because they drive all day and then to end up at a place with shitty sound, it's just got to crush your night. I mean, a little bit where you're just sort of fuck, man, this is the one thing we do in this long day that I look forward to. But I mean, it's cool that it sounds like they all handle it with class and just fucking tore into it, as you say, which is even, and you know what? Sometimes those can be the best things, best shows.
And, Buke and I both ended up walking out of there with Theory's album on vinyl, so
nice.
Can't beat that.
Cool. Little spoiler.
But yes, Decapitated live is one of those bands, and I love it when it's the harder hitting, death metal bands that don't miss a beat from how they sound on the album.
Right on. Cool.
We needed to, at the end of the night, we needed to have a battle of the dreads between Decapitated singer and Joe, the drummer for Theories, because they both had these fucking ass-long dreadlocks.
Nice.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. To just get them both up there and just fucking whipping that around in a windmill. That would have been pretty badass.
But as much as I was looking forward to this show with George made a statement as we were driving away that to go back there again, it's going to be hard to do because even if you like a band, the experience, because again, we are going, if I want to look at a band playing live, I can just pull up a YouTube clip. But the act of hearing it is so piss poor there that it's really hard to go back. And Rivers of Nile is playing with Blackfast. Rivers of Nile is playing with Blackfast at the end of the month.
Next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend.
Dude, I will avoid bands for that reason sometimes. There are bands that I've seen that have consistently had bad sound every time I've seen them in multiple venues, and I'm just like, they got a fucked up sound guy. And I will literally just not go, even if it's somebody I love. I've seen Megadeth probably 4 or 5 times. Once the sound was good. There's something wrong with their sound guy.
There's good things and there's bad things about Cafe 611. The big, obvious gorilla in the room is the sound is not good.
Yeah.
On the flip...
But the thing is, George, we've talked about bad sound at Empire and Jack's in the past.
Even Jack's had better sound than this place.
Exactly. This is not good. This is not bad sound. This is...
horrible.
This is horrible.
But on the other side of things, if it's a band that you really love and you want to stand 2 feet away from them on the same level or even meet them, it's a good place because the place is so small. The bands pretty much hang out at their merch booth.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's how I met fucking
Kirk
Winstein from Crowbar because he was just hanging out at the merch booth.
Dude, look at me go.
Yeah. So
that went out of my ass.
Yeah. So pretty much everybody from the Vans is just wandering around in the room. So, particularly for us, if we're maybe trying to just snag an interview on the fly, it's an opportunity, but it's not really an opportunity to hear the music.
which is a shame.
Yes.
But I mean, I see, like you say, there's a plus there. That is a kind of a cool plus. But yeah, man, bad sound will fucking drive you away from a place. And I agree with Vic. You said it perfectly. You can do that shit on YouTube, dude. You don't have to go down there just to hear. You know, who fucking wants that?
Even if you know every word.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chaotica played before Theories, and I'm not real familiar with them, but apparently Albert and maybe John as well, they're friends with them. And so I was like, all right, I want to give them a listen, because they're the ones that were in the news because they were in that van accident. And so I was kind of like wanting to, throw a little support their way if I could. And all I heard was this massive rumbling bass and the occasional from the female singer.
And
I couldn't hear the guitar. I couldn't even hear the drums.
What is it about sound guys that, I mean, I've been to shows like this, just and you want to go and just strangle the sound guy and just be like, dude, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. What are you? What are you hearing?
I mean, it makes you want to go stand where he's standing, Oh, speaking of, I've been to a couple of shows, just in the last year, where a lot of guys are controlling their shit digitally now. So they'll actually walk around the club with an iPad, and it's got little digital levers on it, and they can adjust shit from there. When I saw Trofest and Corporate Clowny and all those guys, they had that. And I thought that was kind of a slick setup, and so he could literally make on the fly actual changes as he walked around the club. Which, but incidentally, that was a show with really good sound.
Nice.
But it was also a venue with good sound. So that's called Slims in the city, and they tend to have pretty pro stuff.
So we were able to actually rescue some good sound from the night. So while we get into our wonderful sounding interview, minus myself doing it, our interview with Theories.
Sweet.
Okay, this is Buke and George of the Metalheads podcast. We're standing outside, freezing cold, to interview the guys from Theories. What's going on, gentlemen? Say your names for us.
Hey, this is Rick.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And you guys do what in the band, Rick?
I'm the vocalist.
Joe, drums.
Joe on drums, Rick on vocals. Gentlemen, I was Joe talking to you inside the merch table before we started this. How's the tour band going, guys?
It's been a lot of fun so far. I've had a chance to make it all the way out to the East Coast in just about a week and a half, and all the shows so far have been great, if not a bit cold.
Now, for those who don't know, you guys are from Seattle. Is the whole band from Seattle?
I mean, we've all been living there. Certain members are, from the East Coast, but we've all been in Seattle for quite a while.
What is it that brought you guys together? I ask because on the podcast, it seems like a lot of our bands who interview now that Craigslist or the internet has been the great bringer together of some of metal bands that we really enjoy. So what brought all you guys together, and how long have you been doing this?
I mean, I've known Joe for 10 years now, just from going to shows in the same places. A lot of the other guys have known Joe for a while, so he's kind of been the person that's binding us all together. But we all kind of started playing together because we all work on the same block in Seattle, kind of like a party block, lots of bars, and the coffee roastery I work at is on the same block there. So
is it a metal coffee roastery?
Metal friendly, but I wouldn't say.
Is that why you guys have your own coffee at the table?
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't know if you know the band Tombs. Mike, the lead singer of Tombs, actually is in the coffee and roasts coffee and has it himself.
Okay.
So that was the second time I saw that. That was pretty cool. Gentlemen, you guys just released an album on Metal Blade, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Regression came out in March of last year.
And you guys happy with how it turned out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was really awesome for our debut, and it seemed to be received really well. So I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah,
the thing that struck me right away is the grind sound that you guys have, but then you do throw elements of like a death metal sound in with it, like a death grind. I know here I am throwing out genres. Everybody tries to put on bands and labels and shit like that, but you guys do something that definitely stands out. Working for Metal Blades, under their flag, definitely can't do any better than them in the storied history.
Right. Yeah, we're very happy. But we were really surprised and excited when we found out they wanted to sign us.
Yeah, we in fact had Brian on last year, one of our first episodes. And God, and if there's a guy you want running a record label other than Brian Slagle, that's the fucking guy you want. He seems like he's the champion for every band underneath him.
Right, yeah. And done a lot for us so far.
Joe, I was talking to you inside. You said after this tour, you got some festivals you guys are maybe playing in the summer. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, we're playing. What's the name of the festival in
Southwest
Canada?
Starfest. Oh, shit.
We're playing Southwest Terrorfest.
Okay.
With Pig Destroyer, or are they playing? Grow Folk and Nosebleed and Nails. We're playing. I can't remember the name of the festival in Vancouver with Suffocation and Misery Index, Job for Cowboy.
Probably some hockey themed metal thing. Yeah.
It's called Sick Ass Hockey Fest.
Yeah, Puck you or something like that. Yeah. So those are you guys' immediate future plans?
Yeah, and there's like a short 2-week tour that's going to happen in June with a band called Immortal Bird, who are incredible. Modified Ghost is the name of the.
Okay.
But yeah, Immortal Bird, they're great.
Oh, they're one of our favorites last year. They've been doing some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, the record they did is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys have favorite albums from last year? We just did our year-end podcast a couple weeks ago. I know you guys maybe get asked this question a lot. If nothing comes to mind, you're not gonna say it. But
New Cattle Decapitation record.
And whoops, sorry, we are just joined by now
Lee,
and Lee. You are
guitar player.
the guitar player. That Cattle album, what an amazing growth for an album, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they definitely all the elements that they did on that record they had on the record before.
Yeah.
Monument in Humanity.
Yeah.
It's just kind of them building on top of that and getting more wild with that element. Like Travis's insane vocals. It's like it drives me crazy what he's capable of.
When I heard that,
it's insane.
When I heard that, what's it? The first track, "Manufactured Extinction," I think it is. When they go right into like his clean singing vocals there, it kind of sounds that wicked, kind of his own voice.
Yeah, it's really ambitious.
It's just.
They come from that grind world, you
Yes.
know? They come from the grind world, and they're doing something with it that no one's ever done.
And you know what, guys? The grind world for me, it's great that you just mentioned it. You see, I'm wearing a Napalm Death hoodie. They were always a band for me, and grind for years was really hard for me to get into because I thought that I didn't understand it, and a lot of it just hit you right in the face, really hard, really fast, and I didn't know how to appreciate it. Yeah. And then we saw Napalm last year, was it, George?
Yeah, it was a little over a year ago.
And that Apex Predator album, man, that's an amazing album.
And they're old men.
Yes, and they're old guys. Yes, and I was when I gave it a full listen after seeing them live, you're like, man, there's really depth here.
Yeah.
I mean this in the most respect. Grind for me, and what stands out with you guys, grind was just very plain, very, very simple to me as someone who didn't really understand it. But then when guys like you or what Napalm are doing that adds a little more to it, that's what I like to hear. So you like the Cattle, what was yours?
I mean, I'd have to say, the new Behemoth album really kicked my ass. I love that album. And I think it came out last year. It might have been late the year before, but the new Ghost Bath album, Moon Lover, I was really into.
Yours?
I forget the name of the record, but the new Ahab.
Oh.
That's the one. The boats, yeah.
Yes. They are one of our podcast favorite bands.
Yeah. They're incredible. I've been listening to The Giant like nonstop since it came out. So
my man, give me that. Yes.
It's nice to have a new one from
I
him.
made my top 10 of the last 15 years, The Giant.
Yeah.
Dude, that Antarctica, the Polymorphous, that song is like the perfect fucking song.
That is just amazing. You just put on headphones and listen to that album, and it blows your mind. It's crazy.
Yeah. I thought The Boats was a little disappointing just because I think the Giant to me was so perfect that I thought there's no way that they could top that. I'm saying The Boats wasn't bad, it just wasn't the Giant.
Yeah. The vocals are different. It took a little bit of getting used to, but I like it. It's it kind of has that like Seattle grunge vocal sound, which I guess I have to like, right? Yeah.
So, guys, growing up, you guys all look about my age.
24.
Okay. Man, I give myself. Man, I'm 33. Boy, I'm feeling good now. Did you guys kind of get thrown into the grunge world growing up, or is that just kind of what us here from the East Coast, Maryland?
I'd say, I mean, like you grew up in New York, so you weren't exposed to much of that.
Lee and I were the only two people born and bred in Washington.
Where's your flannel? Let me see. Come on.
Man, it's at home. I fit at home. So, like when I was growing up, like my favorite bands were the Melvins and like Soundgarden and stuff like that. Like I was definitely immersed in that stuff. It kind of formed the way I listen to music now. Anytime, like me and Rick have this ongoing conversation about why I can't get into black metal, and it's because I got into the Melvins way too early, and so I need big drums and I need big riffs, and I need, in order for it to sound heavy. I mean, it's a different aesthetic. It's like something, it trained my ear to like listen to look for those riffs and those big drums, and like, you know.
I don't get into myself. Yeah. I'm not a black metal guy.
Yeah, I mean, I do like some black metal bands, but generally it's like black metal bands like that have that element
good
to
production.
it. Like some of some of the Behemoth stuff.
I like my
It's
shit
like black
recorded on a
death metal.
boombox. That's what I like.
That's what we have this discussion on the pod. They have caused so much hatred has been spewed about them, but the band Death Heaven.
Oh yeah.
George, their albums recently have been hailed as, album of the year by multiple outlets. Rolling Stone, gave Sunbather, not that it means shit, but gave Sunbather album of the year. But then George hates it because George says, hey, it's 2015. Albums don't, now 2016, albums don't need to fucking sound like that.
Yeah.
Shitty, in other words. Yeah, shitty.
Yeah.
They can be recorded with...
Well, the music is recorded fine. It's the fact that the vocals are fucking indecipherably buried that it really fucking bothers me about it. And the fact that they look like they just walked out of some fancy club in New York. And
I can almost appreciate that on some level. Like, I mean, I feel like they're trying to do something. I'm not a big Death Heaven fan myself. I don't really like them. But one thing I can give them credit for is that they're not trying to pass themselves off as like some cult black metal band. They're definitely they're self-aware of what they are. That they're kind of hipster post-metal, and so like it's whatever, they can do whatever they want, teach their own.
I mean, that's fine with me. I've actually never heard Death Haven, but to me, black metal didn't sound like it didn't get the crappy production initially because that's what the bands had to do. The first band to really do that was Dark Throne, and they had a good recording budget. Like their first album was solidly recorded, Swedish death metal album, and they intentionally did that. So I think a big part of black metal for me is defying expectations. So I don't fuck what anybody thinks you should do, or conforming to some sort of image or sound. Do what the fuck you want to do, and do exactly what people don't want you to do, and that can be pretty black metal.
Look, you guys have Joe in it, man. You guys can't see here on this podcast, but Joe, you got long fucking dreads that are epic.
But they're recorded really poorly.
That right there. Let's put that on the fucking shirt. Oh, Joe, I gotta ask you, playing this style music as a drummer, do you like this style to play? Because, we mentioned Ahab. When I hear a lot of the Funeral Doom stuff, I think to myself, oh, as a drummer, they must be bored fucking silly. I have to wonder.
I love playing this kind of music. Yes. Okay. It hurts, and I'm getting old, and there's definitely a good amount of shows where halfway through I'm like, fuck, be over. But I kind of can't get away from it. I've tried to dumb it down, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Would you be now on the flip side? Would you be bored if you were in a Funeral Doom band?
I am. Oh, I am in a Doom band. It's no.
Dave, for those I was trying to lead us into a question. Go ahead and tell other people who you're in.
I play in Samothrace. It's not boring because I like the music a lot and I get to hit really hard.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's different and it's hard.
At Death Fest last year, we saw Skepticism, and what you just said hit home. Fucking, it's hitting you like a Mack truck every time they play. It's slow, it's trotting, but it's fucking pounding. Yeah. And I just always wonder if what you guys think about that, playing that style. You guys here again have a couple more dates on this tour. Can we expect you guys to enter the studio? Are we already working on new stuff?
That's what we're working on, pretty much. We have some like we were saying earlier, we have some fests coming up. We got a couple like small tours, but focusing, like at least for me, focusing on writing another record. That's my priority. We had this one come out, and you know, I'm really ADD, so when I'm really stoked about how it turned out, and I'm like, oh, that was great. Let's fucking do it again. Let's get working on the next one, man. Like that's all I want.
As a band, what's your guys' method for doing your guys' writing? Who does most of it? Do you guys put it in? You do?
Well, I mean, it's like I write the actual like riffs and like melodic structures and stuff like that, or if you want to call it that. And then me and Joe work out like arrangement with Kusha. Kusha, he's not here, but yeah. Kusha works out arrangements also. It's relatively collaborative. It all starts with guitars, though. I mean, I've tried to pester Joe about like starting from the standpoint of coming up with drum lines first. We've done that in the past, and I kind of enjoyed it. It's kind of like it accesses a different part of my brain than I normally use. But yeah, I mean, we're working whatever we can on new stuff. It's what I do. That is the best part, the creative part of it, and it's been a while.
You know, when you guys hear, driving, across the country here on tour, I'm not going to ask you what's your craziest tour story and shit like that, but does it give you guys a chance to really get together and bounce ideas back and forth, or really this kind of driving around isn't? Because with technology being what it is, you guys could pull out like an iPhone, iPad or something, or a laptop and lay down something. Or when you guys have hours to kill outside, shitty bars here in Frederick.
Like I think that's something that's conducive to having a bigger space. Like guys that have like sprinters or like have chairs where you can sit down and do that stuff.
I have a Toyota Prius. Yeah. You're not recording anything in my fucking car.
But when we're in the when you're in a van, we don't have a trailer. We've got all of our gear is crammed into our van. All of our stuff is crammed into our van. We barely have places to put our feet, let alone places to play guitar. So like I don't even.
We get a chance to talk about a lot of ideas, to bounce things off of each other, shoot down each other's plans.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with music though. It generally has. We're bouncing like creative ideas about how we can
make a sandwich. We do take our iPhones and iPads out and lay down in the van and play Angry Birds. Look at Instagram.
Look at all that shit. Is there any point during a tour when you guys, because it blows me away, and I talk to my coworkers, and I'm like, these are my bands going around in vans, just out there playing for the love of it. Does it get to a point, and I'm sure it has to, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, so if it doesn't, where you get to a point like maybe a couple of days into a tour, or like right now you're like, God, this fucking sucks. Here we are in Maryland, gotta drive all the way fucking back to Washington in this thing. Does it ever get to a point, guys, and you're like, man, this sucks?
It hasn't been too bad. I think considering how much time we spend together, we actually all get along really well. Like, obviously, we all get on each other's nerves to like some extent, but not nearly to the extent that I've experienced in other bands. So.
I was actually talking about this earlier. I find on tours I hit little mini walls periodically where it's just like, where like one day I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, it's this again, but ultimately I love it, and I couldn't imagine doing like anything else with this time, I mean, me and Joe have these conversations like where we'll be like, if we get offered this thing to do, like fuck our lives, like it doesn't matter. Like it's I think with everything, like every day you make a conscious decision, like this is what I'm doing, and like if you don't do that, I feel like that's what a work ethic is,
I gotta take some of your words to heart, because sometimes, I'm not on tour driving around, but some days I'm like, God, going to work again, and I only work 4 days a week.
Yeah, that works with jobs too, man. Just getting up, like you make a conscious decision, show up to work. I mean, some days you wake up and it's not as fun as other days, but that's what makes you a worker,
Yeah.
Except for when you do that with jobs, you don't end up homeless.
That's true.
We got a van that's a home. I've been touring for a long time, and I honestly, like, even if I didn't like it anymore, which is not true, like, I fucking love tour. The only thing I don't like about tour is setting up my drums. But, I mean, it takes like 20 minutes, and once I'm done, I'm like, I was such a baby about that. But, like, I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't touring.
I'm sure you guys have met countless people, made countless friends, wonderful connections, seen the country, you know. You guys have been able to see sites that people wouldn't go their whole lifetimes never seeing, you know?
Get to see, a lot of I think that as opposed to like vacationing in a place, it's cool to see like what people actually do and like actually meet locals. Like every once in a while, if we have some extra time, we'll like fuck around and see something touristy, like go to the Alamo or something like that. But when we come to town, we're just kind of living like the basic like town life, and that's a part of every city I don't think most people get to see when they visit.
No, definitely not.
Even if you're on like the kind of tour where the drives are super long and the load-ins are early, and you don't get to do much besides go to the show, still like the level of responsibility is like nothing compared to being at home, you know? Like if something fucked up happens, like there's nothing you can do till you're back home. So like basically our responsibility is get our gear where it's supposed to be, play for 30 minutes and have a good time, and then get it back off the stage. Like,
and hope everything isn't catching on fire back at home.
Yeah, I mean, and if it does catch on fire, like then it'll deal with it in a week or two, you know? Like, nothing I can do now, man.
Nothing you can do about it right now, you know, as your phone goes off, you know, right?
Everything catches on fire. You don't have to worry about finding storage for some of the stuff that survives.
I was just saying, like, as your phone goes off, saying, like, saying, like, oh, shit, it's burned down. You guys made any good, you know, especially you, Joe. You guys been in past bands as well?
Yeah, we've all been in bands, like, forever. Nothing too notable. I was in various styles for a little bit. Count Time. Nothing really notable.
Yeah.
I played in a like kind of like a metalcore band called Grieving That Is to Come. I did like a project that was. I have pretty diverse music styles, and I did a project that sounded kind of like Drive Like Jehu.
Okay.
Or Unwound, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Guys, since you guys, you know, just put your first album out on Metal Blade, we see a lot of bands, and how we get introduced to a lot of bands is Bandcamp and stuff, and a lot of bands putting things out by themselves. Before Metal Blade, and you guys, you know, got signed to them, was that something that you guys had even looked into? And are you maybe a little relieved that you don't have to worry about putting it all out by yourself?
We had a band camp. Like,
we started the band in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. Or basically the beginning of. Well, we started the band in 2010, kind of.
Okay.
Like just a couple dudes, and then we recorded a demo. We had 4 songs that we recorded before the band was full. It was kind of like a let's record this and then figure out who else is going to be in it kind of thing. And we had that demo out. We toured on that demo like 5 times or something.
Wow.
And then we did a split 7-inch with Wake from Calgary.
Yep.
So I mean, we had some stuff out before, but we kind of did everything backwards. Like the band started because we wanted to tour. So we kind of wrote a set and then toured a lot, and then buckled down to record.
How did getting signed come about?
We sent some stuff out, and we had a booking agent who did as well, and Metal Blade.
Wow.
Bit.
Wow.
I mean, I think they saw that like we were a band that was willing to work. Like we would have put out the album regardless. We recorded it on our own. They ended up putting it out for us, but we were just gonna do it. Like we were gonna tour, we were gonna write, we were gonna record, and if Metal Blade wanted to help us out, that's fucking fantastic. But so more people were going to hear it, but we were going to do it regardless. But I think that helped. I think Metal Blade saw a band that were going to do things anyway, and saw that as an opportunity.
Yeah, that is definitely the one thing that I think you still get with labels that I think sometimes with Bandcamp is hard, because you go on Bandcamp every day. It's still a bitch of a page to really navigate to see what's like new. And there's so much stuff just being fucking dumped on it all the time that it's hard to really kind of stand out, I think, sometimes on there. But now with, you know, the label and what they do, you know, hoping you guys get recognized, definitely helps more than, you know, putting it out there by your guys selves, which you know we're going to do and had done in the past. Gentlemen, one question, and I'll let you guys go. I don't know if you guys have been following the metal world news, aside from all the deaths that we've had. Phil Anselmo kind of put his foot in his mouth with his actions on stage. You guys got any comments on that, or you think that Phil's...
Or would you prefer to stay far, far away from that question?
Yeah.
The one thing that bugs me about all of this stuff is that, like, yeah, so it's a dude that did something stupid. He was drunk. Obviously, he was wasted.
Of course. That's what I said.
Kind of my granted, he did something fucked up, but like, kind of my take on all of it is like, one person's like stupid actions or stupid opinions doesn't give everyone free license to be shitty to each other. And I see a lot of comments about stuff like people like being like, that's fine if someone has an opinion that he's racist, but then all of a sudden everyone backlashes at that, and then that person's like, all right, well, you're all racist.
You're all, yeah.
And then it's just like everyone like just talking shit on each other, and I'm like what's worse in the grand scheme of things? One person saying something fucked up, or like and I like Pantera fine, but I was never a huge fan, so I don't have like an opinion. I always kind of thought Phil Anselmo was a little bit of a tool,
Yeah.
So like, I don't have any opinion on what he said. I do have an opinion about the way the general public and social media tends to handle shit like that. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, I think, he put his foot in his fucking mouth. I think, like, since then he released the apology, which seemed to me to be heartfelt, and it seems like he's being accountable from that. I don't see why people need to deify the artists that make the music they enjoy. Like, I think it's entirely possible to be like, I really enjoy this art. That person is not somebody who I back at all. So I don't know.
I don't like I'm not going to go, if this was a church, I'm not going to like the guy who burnt it down, but I can listen to the music.
Right. I mean, I might like a person who burnt down a church. But yeah, I think that's it. But ultimately, I think the only thing that disappointed me about the backlash is hearing people say that, like, if you're not down with, like, racism, then, like, you're not metal. Or if, like, PC things, or if something's not PC, then you're not metal. And, like, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole SJW thing kind of pisses me off. Like,
yeah, what I think is fucking metal is standing up for what you believe in and, like, saying fuck you to the people who you hate. And if that means bigots, which, at least for me, I think bigotry has no fucking place in metal, and that's like my view, and I'll say that to anybody's fucking face, and if that makes me like a social justice warrior or like a pussy, so be it. I don't give a shit.
Well, gentlemen, anything you say in closing? And I'll let you guys go inside, warm up. George, you got anything?
Yeah, I was curious about the band name. First of all, who came up with the name Theories, and what's the theory behind Theories? I mean, what's that mean? Like,
you can't ask that. That's what? Yeah. What's the theory for your question?
I'm just curious.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I don't know. I think Joe came up with the name, but I think it's that we all are kind of interested in weird conspiracy theories and stuff. Or
are you on like Matt Pike's level? With like
I
weird.
don't know what Matt Pike's level is.
He's out there.
I mean, I've got some ideas about socio-political stuff, which I could go on for quite a long time.
Did we land on the moon?
Did we land on the moon? I don't know that there's a fucking moon, man.
It sounds strange, man.
Dude, the moon doesn't exist.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I imagine like so. I hate naming bands. Like, I hate band names in general. So I think that having a name that was relatively ambiguous and kind of like, it's just a word. Like, band name it a word, let the music determine what that word means to other people. Like, it doesn't really like so one of my favorite band names is like, I love Today Is the Day, right? Mm-hmm. And Today Is the Day, if you look at it a particular way, you could think that's some posi-core straight edge band that should be written in like collegiate lettering. But their music is depressing as fuck. So it makes me feel like their name is like, today is the day that I fucking kill myself. Yep. So what you do, like your art determines what how people are going to perceive what your band name is. So ultimately, it doesn't matter what your band name is. So, like, having an ambiguous band name is good for that.
I agree.
And both those things combined, it was the fact that we were into conspiracy theory shit, and the fact that
biggest one? Your biggest conspiracy theory?
It's different for all of us. We argue about it, disagree with each other entirely.
That's what they're doing in the van.
I'm really ever since first reading about it, I think the most interesting one is the HARP. Like weather control shit, which is fucking nuts. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like the Matt Pike thing, like everything's meant to confuse the fuck out of you. So whether you believe in each conspiracy or you don't believe in it, like it's just people telling you why you're wrong. Like either side, I don't know. So like it's interesting. It's a good read, and like every now and then you'll talk to someone who knows some shit, and like just by like the look on their face or like the smirk they give you, you're like, motherfucker, there's so much shit you don't know.
There's a documentary. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I watched a documentary on Netflix about one of the flights off of New York or Massachusetts, wherever it was, that got shot down. They say, and they have countless eyewitness reports, hundreds of people, credible people, old ladies, professional guys. And they all said they saw something go up and hit the plane, and that's what took it down. But, the FAA says that, it was a mechanical error. That's a theory that I fucking got behind. So I could see it when there's tons of ones that you out there. So, definitely passing the time, driving back on the road, bouncing shit off. Georgia, anything else?
Yeah, I noticed you guys had vinyl on your merch booth. Any of you guys into vinyl? Or is that just something, that you sell because Metal Blade makes vinyl?
We have to actually talk him into doing it.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up buying vinyl. I grew up listening to vinyl because my father and his 45 collection. I don't see... I mean, CDs are nice, and they're easy, and they're good to listen to so you don't fuck your vinyl up, but I don't know, like, it's not fun framing a CD and putting it on the wall,
Yeah.
Like, vinyl's just better in every way.
Just want to point out to everybody that we are also almost out, and it is on limited edition black vinyl, so get it while it lasts.
I'm going to be going inside and grabbing one myself.
Me too.
George also. Is there...
The unspoken thing that I didn't say is that on the podcast we're all big vinyl fans, and so that was like the first thing we zeroed in on when we walked in there. We're like, ooh, vinyl!
Yeah. So... Okay, well, gentlemen, I'll let you guys go. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tonight. Thanks for giving us the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That was our interview with the guys from Theories. Wonderful group of guys. If you haven't, again, checked out their album, they released Regression through Metal Blade Records last year. And that is Theories from Seattle, Washington. You can check out their Facebook at facebook.com/theoriesgrind. And also you can check them out at theories.us.
Is Black Breath also from Seattle?
I thought they were from that area.
I ask because it occurs to me quite suddenly that when I saw Goat Horror, it was with Black Breath and Theories supporting. And this was
Black Breath is from Seattle. Look at you.
There we go. Well, I was lucky guess because I figured that they end up on these tours together. They must be buddies.
Jay, what are the lottery numbers for tomorrow?
666, baby.
Ooh. All right. One more thing that I want to get into before we do the news. Something that occurred to me while we were talking to the guys in Theories. For a long time now, I've been aware of the fact that a lot of European metal bands are kind of incestuous. Like Hellhammer's in a dozen different bands and things like that. And, I've just sort of come to expect that from European metal bands. But it's not something that I saw a lot of in the U.S. But I think I'm starting to see this more. Like when we were talking to the Theories guys and they were talking about some of the other bands that they're in. And it occurred to me, a lot of metal bands really kind of have to keep the ball up in the air for the whole year. And so, you do an album, you tour for a month, and you move on to your next band so that you can... Because obviously, one band can't go and release 3 albums in a year and tour everywhere. And so it's kind of like jobs where you have to bill for your time. And if you're not billing, you're not getting paid.
Yep.
And so, you're a drummer in this band, but when they're not on the road, you got to be on tour with this band. And if you're not on the road with that band, you have to be on the road with the other band because otherwise you're not eating because you're not, if you want to be a full-time musician, it seems like that's kind of what you got to do.
I think that's arguably true with some bands that you might consider pretty big, that we would consider pretty big. I mean, like Lamb of God, they're probably not having to do that, but I think there are bands of stature that would be pretty close to that you'd be surprised that if they just go home and sit after the tour, shit starts getting a little tight,
Yeah, I mean, certainly, Lamb of God would be like an A-list band.
Yeah,
but
even them, like they can't not work they can't like take a year off though. You know what I mean?
Right, but like B and C list bands that you've heard of, but aren't necessarily moving a lot of units.
Yeah.
Just because everybody's downloading it or whatever. These guys, and bands will break up because people aren't making enough money, and so I think the truly industrious people that love music and want to do music full time, I kind of feel like that's what they got to do to keep things going.
Yeah, I think so too. I do.
It's kind of a shame on one hand, and well, it's kind of cool on another because we just get more music.
Yeah,
Jay, if not to knock you down in your band, a band's a band.
Yeah.
If one of your band members came to you and said, "Hey, I'm going to go play with so and so," knowing you and your personality, you'd be like, "Okay, cool."
Sure.
I wonder how much in the band world, how many fights and stuff that comes up with, and how many members are like, "No, us first," fucking.
Well, Metallica for one.
Yeah, James Hetfield for one. I'll tell you. I think it depends on the person, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not trying to. I'm going to say something that's not too complimentary about our drummer, but he never listens to the show, so no problem. But he was in another band for quite a while we were playing, and he always considered our band the first band. And it was a good band, too. I liked them. They were called Devil Riding Shotgun. Kind of a Danziggy. It wasn't the greatest name. And kind of a Danziggy type singer, maybe a little stoner rock type stuff. It was cool. And I didn't care at all. It was fine with me. In fact, the guy was a friend of ours. He opened for us. We opened for him. But I have been thinking lately, and that was fine with me, but I've been thinking lately it would be cool to do like a Doom side project. Just something where I can play a little slower and enjoy myself and plus I love Doom.
You're going to sing in a deep, clean voice.
I don't think he would be cool with that. You know what I mean? Like I was very cool with him doing it, but I think, and I think part of that might be because I'm kind of the one I'm one of the, everybody puts in a lot of hard work, but I'm the one who writes the songs and stuff. And that might be a little more threatening for him than for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just one small example. And we're really good friends. It's nothing weird like that. And I shouldn't even predict his behavior because I don't know what it would be. But I think it's about that. There are some guys who are like, we can make this the greatest fucking thing in the world, and it's the only thing that matters. And any sign that somebody is trying to do something else is like worries them.
Well, yeah, I mean, you understand to a point Hetfield's perspective, not quite to the crazy point, but you understand that your focus, people want their focus to be on this band. You need to be 100% behind this band. And if you're 100% behind this band, you don't have time for other things like that. And I can understand that point of view, but it's not realistic in the environment that people are working in now, because that would be that would be great if everybody could have one band and that was it.
Yeah.
But if you want to make a living and put food on the table and pay your house payments or whatever, you got to work.
And even with that, George, probably not even do those things. It'll be limited. You know what I mean? But I think that is why. I think that's a lot of guys. I mean, even the guys in Mastodon, and I know they've kind of got houses. I know I catch little bits and pieces in interviews. They're doing okay, and probably better than okay. But there's been some side projects in that band, and I'm convinced it's because when they're not working, some of them are get a little like, I need a little money coming in. Mm-hmm. I mean, actually, Mastodon's a great example, dude, because again, I know for a fact that like their guitar player has built like a big, beautiful house in Atlanta, so they're doing all right. But that stated, they actually have a webpage it's a Facebook page called Mastodon Yard Sale, and there is always shit. They're constantly selling their old guitars, their old amplifiers, I mean, and they're not doing it because I'm sure they're doing it, for the money, It's not like, ooh, the warehouse is too full.
Right.
Yeah, and they do everything there from sell old vinyl to autographed posters to T-shirts that they found from 2 tours ago, and then, like I said, like frequently equipment. They're selling equipment. A lot they do that. I see guitars and amps there all the time. Nice. So and I think that supplements their reasonable income, He buys all their Star Wars figures in the case of Joe Gallagher. Because he's like a big Star Wars fan. And I once heard Buke, I remember I read an interview with Michael Ockerfeldt, and this was probably after Deliverance tour, I'm thinking, or maybe it was the tour that they did with Porcupine Tree. And he was saying when he got home, he spent all the money from the merchandise sales on vinyl.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, that also sort of tells you how much money that really kind of wasn't, and how it does. It comes, and you don't think about it. You think these guys are rolling in it, but you come back from a tour and one trip to the record shop in Michael Ockerfeld's case, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And where's your next paycheck coming from? Yeah.
Great point. That's a really good point.
It's not a steady in.
It's just like you guys said, you cannot expect to, since guys aren't making all the money. It's not right to try and hold someone down.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it really isn't, especially because you can consider yourself a professional musician, but that's another argument we have in our band every once in a while. It's like every once in a while I'll say like, I'm too sick or something, let's don't play that show this next week. And then our drummer will frequently look at me and say, that's not professional, dude. And I always tell him, we're not professionals, dude. Nobody's paying,
Well, should we get into some news?
Let's rock this shit, yo.
So this first item, I just found out about like 2 or 3 days ago, but apparently it originally happened in November. There's this Iranian metal band called Confessor, and they were arrested by the government in Iran. And they were apparently arrested in November and just made bail like a week ago. And it's like, wow, they made bail? That's pretty amazing that they even made bail in Iran. But they're charged with some pretty heinous things. Like blasphemy and stuff like that, because of they released their own album, and so they were charged with running an illegal record label and radio station, and like I said, blasphemy. And apparently they've lawyered up, and they're facing between 6 months and 6 years in prison for this. But the blasphemy charge holds the death penalty.
Yeah, capital crime.
And
it's not that bad,
So these guys could conceivably be put to death for playing heavy metal. So this is kind of a big deal. And I think it was Metal Injection started a hashtag called Free Confessor. And I passed that around a day or two ago myself on Twitter. So, go out and read about this if you can. Post something on hashtag Free Confessor. Show some support for the band. And I guess let's see what happens. And even the hashtag thing or any amount of money, whatever their fate is already sealed. You know what I mean? Like there's no, and I'm not trying to stop people. I'm just saying we can't affect happenings in Iran, unfortunately. But I think that raise awareness is a big thing.
I just hope over there that the clear heads that they have running the countries over there,
will prevail.
Exactly.
Well, my hope is that enough people hear about this that it'll become sort of a come to the international attention that Iran will have to sort of think twice about executing them. In the Middle East, people get executed all the time.
In groups, dude.
And, they could execute this band and we wouldn't even know for 3 months.
That's right.
So, yeah, it is kind of hard for us to do anything, but I think...
For all we know, we could be saying, hey, fight for them, free them, and they could be dead already.
They could be.
Yeah,
but if you can, spread the word and just try and make as many people aware of this as possible. So maybe, if they made bail, personally, I would be like, get the fuck out of the country.
Get the fuck out of Iran. That's their best bet.
Get out. Come here.
Have you heard any of their music?
I did. I listened to a little bit. It wasn't half bad.
Was there a link in the article or something?
Yeah, the Metal Injection article had like a SoundCloud.
Okay, I'd like to hear it. Was it produced pretty well and everything?
Yeah, it sounded pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. And I didn't mean to sound like, social, rebellion is a bad idea because like a waste of time. By all means, people should be aware of this and should be more and more aware of it. It's a shame. Which is, by the way, it's a great fucking name, Confessor. Like, really. These guys, I'd be curious to read their lyrics and shit and see
one of their songs is I Am Your God Now.
Oh, shit.
Whoops. And I think that's what they're getting the blasphemy charge on, so...
And their
not a whole lot of defense for that.
And their big hit, Pictures of Muhammad.
Yeah, he's on their album cover.
That's right. On their album cover. What?
Yeah.
But that
not
is a
really.
shame. It's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's fucked up. And, it's funny because, like I'm sure a lot of people do, you say the word Iran, my sphincter tightens up, my heartbeat races a little bit, and I just kind of snarl a little bit because I'm like, fuck Iran.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say heavy metal band from Iran, I'm on their team.
Yeah.
I'm like fighting for them, you know?
I mean,
it's because now they're brothers. I don't care if they're from Iran. If they're in a heavy metal band, then there's something that I stand for. And unless there's the unlikely event that their lyrics are their heavy metal band singing about blow up the United States or something, you know, it's pretty unlikely. So
highly unlikely.
Yeah. No, so I'm almost positive that I'm like, all right, I'm behind these guys because,
of course,
you know.
No, I am too. I mean, I saw their picture and they look like they're emulating some of what they've seen come from the West, which means they probably emulate the ideals from the West, which means, I mean, where can these guys even fucking play? You know, I mean, how frustrating must that be? You know, we complain about shitty sound. These fuckers, if they have a show, would have to do it in secret, which is not easy with heavy metal because it's loud.
I bet that sound sucks even worse.
I bet it does, dude.
Underground takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
Could you fucking imagine secret hidden show sound?
Yeah.
Ugh.
With God knows what kind of equipment.
Exactly.
You know? I mean,
jeez.
Yeah. I feel like having a heavy metal show in Cuba, you know, I mean, where they piece together their cars with vacuum parts. I mean, it's just God knows what kind of...
Exactly.
It's like a heavy metal speakeasy. You have to walk up and knock on a door, and the little eyepiece slides back, and you have to give the password, Mr. Iommi is in the house.
Yeah. Swordfish.
Yeah, and then they let you in, and you can see the show. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a fucked up story, dude. Aren't you just a fucking ray of sunshine today?
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep that rolling down that way. The next thing, and I hate to bring it up because, to be perfectly honest, I'm fucking tired of talking about it. Yeah. But I figure we got to at least touch on it, and that's Phil Anselmo and his white power salute.
Okay, I'm more interested in hearing what Buke has to say about this than either of us other two. But I will just say one thing and one thing only, which is, it may be tasteless, but I figured he was joking.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to throw my 2 cents in before Buke goes at it as well. Aside from the fact that I'm tired of hearing about it, you know, if you know Phil Anselmo at all, he doesn't take things... I mean, he takes his music seriously, but he doesn't take anything else particularly seriously.
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt that he was just drunk and fucking around.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right by any means, but that doesn't necessarily mean there was intent to be awful either. Yeah. It just means that he's a stupid drunk and he did something stupid. Yeah. And should he apologize? Yeah, he should apologize. But should this like be the end of his career and people railing on about it? I don't think so. I think people are blowing it out of proportion because, whatever.
You know, you will hear in the Theories interview, the guys were saying, what do you want? And this is the society we live in. An apology isn't good enough anymore.
Right.
They want blood.
What is he supposed to fucking do? That's a great fucking point, Buke. But please, continue.
Phil Anselmo is a drunk, okay? Is Phil going to come on stage goose-stepping, saying down with Jews? And he's just a drunk. I think it's nothing more than that. It wasn't it was a tasteless thing to do given the climate today, but there's nothing more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he's secretly organizing Ku Klux Klan rallies or anything like that.
No, and the overwhelming response in a lot of cases from fairly famous musicians in the metal world has been startling to me. That it seems to me like answering a pea shooter with a fucking cannon. And none of us judging what he did. But I agree with Buke. Can you not fucking apologize anymore? I mean, what the fuck? What is he supposed to do next? What happens after I'm sorry? And I have to say, it seemed like a pretty heartfelt apology to me. He made 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking this so seriously, does that mean you take other things he says seriously? I don't take anything he says seriously without a grain or 2 of salt.
Good point.
You know, I mean, he's talking out his ass half the time anyway. Mm-hmm. So, was it stupid?
So,
yes.
And the thing that gets me to, no disrespect to Phil or any musician, he's just Phil Anselmo. He's a fucking singer.
Yeah.
Okay? This is not like President Obama finished a speech the other day and ends it and says, Black Power.
Right. Yeah.
He's a fucking heavy metal singer.
Yeah.
He contributes, aside from playing music that people enjoy, nothing.
Yeah. And he would probably be the first one to tell you that.
And,
go ahead, George.
And he supposedly told the members of Down to move on without him. I'm like, man, he shouldn't have to quit his band over this. I mean, is it stupid? Yes. Should he apologize? Yes. Okay, he did. Let's move on. End of story. Stop talking about it.
Agreed. It has been weird. Because when I read that news story, I never imagined that the response would be what it was. And the world is somewhat predictable, but I didn't know that Scotty Ian and fucking, Rob Flynn and all these people were going to, and Zach Wilde, everybody's being asked about it in interviews. And what the fuck? That's bizarre.
It's one thing if somebody asks you about it, and you obviously, if whatever metal news agency asks you, what do you think of the Phil Anselmo thing? You have to at least voice disapproval. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown into the same ring that he's in. But for people like Rob Flynn, and Rob Flynn was there, so I can't knock Rob for having an opinion and an extreme opinion at that. But for people that weren't there to come out of the woodwork and damn him on their own, I'm not really into that.
I have to say, too, I'm glad we got to see it, because to me it seemed like he was just joking. But that stated, this would be a whole different fucking story if there had been no camera present. You know what I mean? You still could have read about it, and it would not be reacted to in the same way that it is now.
No.
It's one of those things that the internet is just fucked up about everything. So I will say this, and reprehensible, sure. A joke, I believe. Phil, from my part, apology accepted, brother.
I look at it like this. It's I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree if anybody does that. Bigotry, hatred towards anybody, gender, race, anything. I don't have time for any of that.
Yeah.
But and with that said, it was just a stupid. And some people could say, "Oh, he was joking around." Hey, I'm a guy. I like dark humor. I'm not saying what Phil did was dark humor, and I found it funny. But come on, people! It was just a stupid mistake.
Yeah, people are so excitable, man.
So again, I say for all of us, none of us, and no one in the music world is saying no. Phil should be able to say white power, and the next album is white power, white power. No, nothing even like that. My problem is with a lot of apologies we have to see this day and age. If it's a celebrity of any status, the apology is never good enough.
Yep. It's not our place to crucify these people.
If a hockey player cheats on his spouse, they're having to come before the media multiple times.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to this and this. Just say you're sorry. It takes a lot for people to say sorry. Knowing Phil and his personality, that probably took a lot.
Yep.
You know what else?
Sorry. Go ahead. Well, I'm just gonna say, we're all so fucking clean. It's so easy. I mean, I have the wonderful privilege of making my most hideous mistakes without an audience of that size.
Well, this reminds me of something else that happened recently, and that's the Super Bowl. And after the Super Bowl, Cam Newton was obviously not happy with losing. And he was at a press conference where he was just giving short, terse, unhappy, grumpy answers. And then at the end of the interview, he just got up and walked off. Yeah. And he's been getting a lot of shit about that. And everybody's like, oh, he needs to apologize, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I watched the interview, and was he being kind of a dick? Yeah, he kind of was, He needs to put his big boy pants on and behave a little more professionally. But at the same time, he just came off in a fucking incredible season and lost to a team with no offense in the Super Bowl. So I am not going to fault the guy for being pissed off.
Sure.
But, but people are just fucking riding him about this.
Yep.
It's like, man, just fucking let it go.
Yeah, it was Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whatever day it was. Just shit happens, dude. We're all different. We're all a little different every day. None of these little acts define who we are, definitively, like in this fucking grand universal sense. I would not, just based simply on the small or large, if you see it that way, thing. I have to say, I didn't walk away from that thinking Phil's a racist. I walked away thinking Phil makes some dumb fucking jokes.
Yeah.
And there you go. And there you go. And he apologized, and shit, man, shit happens, I've probably told a couple Holocaust jokes in my time.
Yeah.
I just didn't do it in front of 20,000 people or however many people were there. But, and I'm sure I told them, and me and my friends were like, ooh, that's bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way shit like that. You do shit like that.
Yeah, sometimes a joke is funny by just how wrong it is.
Exactly.
It's not so much the guts of the joke that's funny. It's the how wrong it is. I make jokes like that, not of a offensive nature to my wife, but just I take something and say something that's like obviously such a wrong situation, and she just stares at me and doesn't get it and thinks I'm a complete moron. But I get the telling of a joke that is clearly inappropriate, but it's the inappropriateness that's funny, not the content of the joke.
Speaking of that, I made up my own Helen Keller joke, and I think this would be a perfect way to wrap up this conversation. And so I'm going to tell it to you, George, because it's a knock-knock joke, and it requires one person. So here we go. It's my own original Helen Keller joke. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
That's the whole joke.
I said, right? Who's there?
Yes,
God damn
exactly. It. Yes.
So speaking of the Super Bowl, did anybody watch Metallica's The Night Before, which was streaming online?
No, I did not.
I fast-forwarded through it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It was on a little late for me. I don't think it started till like 11 o'clock on the East Coast.
I watched it like the next day it was streaming, and I literally moved the cursor over. I mean, once you've seen one modern Metallica show, you've seen them all.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's interesting because, Metallica had been petitioning for like the last year to try and get on the halftime show for Super Bowl 50.
Yeah.
And, of course, it was Coldplay that lip-synced on last Sunday. And Metallica's probably not used to not getting what they want. And so they're like, fuck you, we're going to play the night before the Super Bowl, and our Super Bowl show is going to be better.
Well, I think it was an NFL-sanctioned event, though, too. I think it was set up in conjunction with the NFL, because they actually had an NFL 50 logo to it, and since I live here, I live here, and the Super Bowl was here this year, they had, consistently, in the paper all these concerts that were being set up that you could go see, because there was a lot more going on than just Beyonce and stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of famous musicians and people here. And so I say with 100% certainty, it was actually done I think the Super Bowl, NFL probably not only sponsored the event, but probably set it up, paid for the promo, everything, Well,
it's still unlikely that they're ever going to play the actual Super Bowl. And I'm basing that solely on the fact that James Hetfield said that he doesn't think they'll ever get to play it.
Well, and if they're not going to play the one in their hometown, no, not going to happen. I mean, that was why people were petitioning, because they all live here.
Yeah, I'm curious how it would have turned out had they been doing it, because it's well known, particularly after, I think it was the Chili Peppers. Did they play it?
Like Aerosmith. Yeah, they probably did. Aerosmith. Yeah, they did.
A couple years ago, there was a rock band that played, and it was glaringly obvious that it was lip synced because their guitars weren't even plugged into anything, not even to a wireless or anything. And I think it was sort of their fuck you, because they weren't letting them play live. Because it's the Super Bowl, you can't play live. You have to lip sync because all the moving parts, it's just not possible. And I want to know, if Metallica did play the Super Bowl, would they lip sync, or would they be like, we're Metallica, we're fucking playing? Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that, is Metallica never going to play the Super Bowl because they will refuse to unplug?
That's highly possible, because they are big enough and popular enough that certainly the NFL haven't blacklisted them, as a metal band.
I think they're probably higher up on more football fans' list than Coldplay or Beyonce.
Yeah. Way higher. I mean, as a band who would much more commonly have their stuff played over the speakers in between plays, to pump up the crowd.
Yeah, not that football fans are of a type, but I think there's probably more football fans that are Metallica fans than Beyonce fans. Just saying.
Well, you guys go to Caps games. They play Metallica at the Caps games, Buke?
Yeah. Occasionally they'll play something.
I haven't heard. They play other metal. They don't play them.
Yeah,
they do play metal though.
I've heard them at something.
I mean, the Sharks fucking come out to Metallica. They come out to Seek and Destroy, and both the Sharks and the Giants have a yearly Metallica Day now, where one of the games is Metallica themed, and they sell jerseys with Metallica on them, and the band comes and drops the puck or throws out the first pitch.
Yep.
Or plays the national anthem. I mean, it's not like they're untouchable to these big sports places, But I wonder. That's a pretty solid theory, George, or wonderment, about the possible lip sync. I do know in the case of lip syncing, sometimes I've noticed, having watched halftime shows myself, that they will record a live version of it, but they still lip sync.
Yeah.
They're not playing off the record.
I slightly understand the need for it in the situation that they don't have time to set up all, they got to be in and out in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's just, that you can't sound check it, you can't do it. So, I kind of understand it. It's still lame because fuck lip syncing. But
it doesn't lend itself, I will say this, it doesn't lend itself to choreography and dancers and a big to-do, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying it should, but that might be another reason they're reticent to have a band like that.
I mean, I saw Sammy Hagar after a Washington Nationals baseball game. They fucking rolled him out on a fucking portable stage with portable sound, and he was out there in like 10 minutes and fucking tore that place up and sounded amazing.
Yeah.
However, it did take like 10 minutes to get out there and get set up, and maybe they didn't have time for that. But still, it's possible. But then when you add all the choreography and all the stuff that's going on, it's just a logistical nightmare. I get that.
Yeah.
But
also, it would be weird to have a whole bunch of dancers to Metallica. They also played at least once and maybe a couple of times. They did pre-show concerts in the parking lot at a Raiders game.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Buke
So they're not still kind of friends. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So they're not, unfriendly to the NFL, but
Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? Yeah, that night before the show, I could see the fireworks from my house.
Sweet.
Because they had fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that while the game was going on, they would show shots of like the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff like that, and I told my family, "Look, I can see Jay's house."
And we were too, because when we watched, I didn't watch the whole game, but in between they were showing just lovely sort of scenes from around the Bay Area, and we were like, "No way, Point Reyes!" Some of our favorite places to go are really beautiful places, and they showed them. And I can indeed, I was telling George, see the Golden Gate Bridge from my street. So while I may not have been in that shot, there was still a version of my aura.
Yes. Another bit of Metallica news. Apparently, Metallica were featured on the Showtime show Billions. I've only watched the first episode of this show because it's got the dude from Homeland on there. I forget his name, but the red-haired guy that was... Yeah, anyway. But it was a pretty good show, and I'm looking forward to understanding why Metallica would be on this show, because it's like about like Wall Street investors and crime and stuff like that, so I don't know how Metallica fits into that.
Me either, too. I've never seen the show myself, but I saw this story as well, so we'll see. I'm wondering if it's like they've got some sort of corporate partnership with somebody or something, you know what I mean? And
If the dude hires Metallica to play a birthday party or
it
something.
could be that, too. Yeah. Maybe it's something like that, like the Wu-Tang Clan thing,
Yeah.
$2 million for the recorded Metallica album nobody gets to hear.
Yeah. It's a new show. I think there's only like 4 episodes so far. I've only watched the first one, but I'll report back once I get to that one.
Cool.
So at this year's NAMM show, the National Association of Music Merchants, Gary Holt, and I put it here in the chat for you guys to see, revealed a guitar that is fucking badass. Mm-hmm. Painted entirely in his blood. The first time a guitar has ever been painted in an artist's blood. Last year, before a show, the artist, who does a lot of work with blood, took 18 vials of his blood.
Good Lord, that's a lot of blood.
And if you go, you could do a search of it. It's a freaking wicked looking piece. Jay, you see a picture of it sitting there in the chair?
Yeah, he has a signature guitar that ESP, I believe, put out that is blood themed already. He has, which I was kind of thinking of buying one of his guitars because they look really nice. But I had seen this too, and it's a perfect fucking Gary Holt. You know what? I'm trying to think. Kerry King frequently says Gary Holt to him is the Glenn Tipton of metal right now, which is he's kind of the slightly underappreciated guy, but he's fucking amazing. He's a great guitar player. He's a kick-ass dude. He seems pretty like a nice guy to me. I like Gary Holt. So it's cool that he's kind of getting this visibility in Slayer now too, where he gets to do things like this.
You speaking about guitars, you loyal to any certain brand, Jay?
Less and less so. Mostly Gibson, but I've kind of been going a little farther afield these days. I think that was some weird Jimmy Page hardcore fucking thing I had for a long time, but these days you can find a lot of good ones, dude. So I've spread my wings a little more these days. But I just bought a PRS. I was telling George.
That's a Paul Reed Smith, by the way.
Yeah, Paul Reed Smith. Yeah, and it's
I think that's what Mike of Opeth uses.
That's correct. And the guitar that I purchased is called a Starla, and it's not too dissimilar looking than that. You've certainly seen that.
Do yours have birds on it too?
It does. Yeah, I haven't got it yet. I get it next week.
Doesn't make a difference. It can't change your playing though. But
it can't. But the birds make you sound a little better.
Okay. George, next story.
All right. So Anvil has released a lyric video for the song Die for a Lie from their forthcoming Anvil is Anvil album. I gave this a listen, and, it's Anvil. That's not meant to be derogatory. what I mean by that inflection is that Anvil has pretty much been Anvil for 30 years. It's kind of like Manowar. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah,
and,
I listen to it, and it's Anvil.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not frickin' a masterpiece or anything like that. But if you like Anvil, you ought to like it because it's more of the same. It's not bad. If it comes on the radio, I will turn it up and bang my head a little.
Well, much more interesting than this, with all due respect to the band, George jumped on the crowdfunding for this very record, and you kind of got some cool stuff in the mail the other day.
I did. I backed this album, Anvil is Anvil, and I did two different, I don't know what you'd call it, two different funding options. The first one got me a printed out set list from one of their shows with the Anvil logo at the top, and it was signed by all three band members. But even more cool than that is I got a handwritten lyric sheet for the song Metal on Metal, handwritten by Lips, and also signed by all three band members. And I'm going to frame both of those and put them up here in the podcast studio.
Fuck yeah, dude. That is and I presume you'll get a copy of the record too.
Yeah, probably. I think that is one of the...
Knowing crowdfunded, you got to pay another $10 for that.
No, I'm pretty sure it comes with it. It just hasn't come out yet, so I haven't gotten it.
But that's neat. That's neat. I mean, so much better than pay $5,000 to meet Dave Mustaine,
Yeah, I like cool stuff like that. I don't care so much about... it's like, okay, if you pay $10 and get the album, okay, well that's essentially the same as buying it, except you're helping the band out ahead of time. But when you have like more, what do they call those things? Not prizes, but incentives. For more money. I like the ones that are stuff you're not going to find at the store or online any given day of the week. Something like this that's a little more personal. That kind of stuff. I'll just throw money at you.
Yeah, me too. I just ordered, I was talking to George this week, and I'm kind of having a rehash of Hyrix. Who's I think an underrated band from the Los Angeles area, early metal blade band. And in any case, and I kind of went to their webpage, which I'd never been to, and for those of you guys who don't know, Hyrix is a band with a black lead singer. His name's Caton DePena, and I do point out that he's black because that was kind of weird in the 80s. It was a little bit, unique. Still kind of unique, and they're just a really cool band. And in any case, I ordered a T-shirt from them recently. One of the things that says on their merch page, which I imagine he handles personally, says every order comes with some special surprises. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he might have signed and thrown in there or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Speaking of that, last year at some point, a band that I'm fond of, and of course we know Will is fond of, King Giant, they did a Kickstarter or something along those lines, some sort of crowdfunding.
They tried Kickstarter and it failed.
Yeah. To do a vinyl of their last album, Black Ocean Waves. And I of course, kicked in my money to get the beer-colored vinyl. And as Buke just pointed out, that Kickstarter didn't get funded. So I'm happy to say that they found a Greek record label that I guess would front the money to do this. And this past week, the pre-orders went on sale, and so I was able to order my beer-colored vinyl of the King Giant album.
I did not buy it myself because I have a problem. You first try and get money from me to get it. When that doesn't work, you still go ahead and print the damn thing anyway. No. I personally have a problem with that.
Well, they had to go and find somebody to give them money to do it. Is the thing.
But you know what? You gladly would have taken my money for it. But, look, went ahead and did it anyway.
Well, yeah, but it came out like...
Remember, the beer color was going to be a special higher tier rate. Take your sympathy record and fucking spin it.
I will, God damn it.
I did kick in on the Kickstarter too, and not for the same reasons, but I didn't buy it either, Buke, when they made that announcement recently. So I did kick in. I was a little more inclined to buy in when I felt like I was taking part in something, helping out with something.
Yes.
Yeah, but they had to go to Greece to find somebody to do this.
That's where most records are being produced now.
That's true.
Because over here in the States, I think the one or two that are left are just so on back order.
The Greek labels are picking up a lot of people, dude.
Wow.
Soft Egg was on a Greek label for quite a while. But I didn't necessarily think there was anything wrong with them trying to find another way to put it out. But I was more interested in it when I felt like I had something to do with it.
Right.
Not being the hugest fan of theirs, though I do have that record and I like it. And I did order the beer vinyl too. I was disappointed when that failed, and I don't even think they got that close, if I remember right.
No.
They weren't even close at all.
Yeah.
Speaking of other pre-orders, just a couple hours ago, Earache released the pre-order for the third brand new Vector album. I believe it's called Termination Redux. And I ordered the limited to 100 copies purple vinyl signed by the band with a patch or something.
Very cool.
So I heard the new song from the album, and it's pretty badass. So
okay, cool.
Moving on. Testament has announced that they have a tentative album title for their new album, and it's called The Brotherhood of the Snake. And apparently it's going to be really fast, as we've heard.
Like throughout, apparently, or at least intermittently. There was some interview recently, I think it was where this title came from, and it just sounds like it's a real fucking thrash album.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. You guys know, you probably do, that Chuck Billy has a management company now, and he's like Exodus's manager.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. I have nothing to add to that except to say that that's something he's doing. I'll be interested to hear it. I have never been the hugest Testament fan, though I like them well enough. I thought their last two records were both high-quality records. That's some pretty good comeback material that they're putting out these days. Well produced, well played. I like Alex Skolnick; he's a great player.
Yeah.
So I'll be looking forward to this. And they both had great covers too, by the way. Cool cover art of both of them.
Nice. So there's a band called All Hail the Yeti, and I picked up their last album, which I believe was self-titled, like a year or two ago, and kind of dug it. It was kind of like a sludgy American metal band. And back in November, December, I heard that they were finally going to release that album on Bandcamp. And I know that listener friend of ours, Greg, was wow, these guys are awesome. I'm sorry.
That's right. No, I remember now when Greg brought this up.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I know these guys. And, I dug what they did. But then they kind of pissed in my Cheerios because they were supposed to be reissuing the album on Bandcamp so I could get it in the FLAC file. And it was supposed to be out, I think, sometime in December, mid-December. And it was all set up, pre-order. And it was December, I'm just going to say December 18th. I don't know if that's correct, but let's say December 18th came and it still said pre-order. And January came and it still said pre-order. And February came, and it still said pre-order. And I'm like, fuck you. If you're going to put out a release date, fucking release the goddamn album. If I'd actually pre-ordered it, I'd have been pissed that it didn't come out. And so now there's this press release that came out the other day that they've got a new album coming out, and it's called Screams from a Black Wilderness, and it's supposed to be out in April. Now you can pre-order this one. And I was like, why would I pre-order this? You haven't even filled the pre-order from the last one yet. And 2 days ago, when I started writing the script for this show, it was still on pre-order. I just now pulled it up, and it is now available. So sometime in the last 2 days, you can now get that album.
Is it just me, or do we need to get these guys on a tour with Troglodyte?
Yeah. So I'm kind of torn right now because I'm excited about the new album, but I'm also kind of fuck you for stringing me along for 3 months.
You're mad at them.
So I'm announcing their album. That's sort of a plus for them. I don't know. I think they're going to have to really wow me with this album for me to buy it.
I'm going to kind of switch gears here just because I just remembered a news story that I wanted to mention, and I know you probably guys have heard about it, but I'm really excited about it, which is rare because there's not much Metallica stuff that comes out that I get excited about. But there is a new book coming out about the making of Master of Puppets. And they had on one of the websites the other day, they had some pages from it, and it looks fucking killer, dude. It's just all photos from that era, telling stories, how the album was made. It's authorized, so it's going to be the real deal. And arguably one of the more important metal albums of the last 30 years. So anyway, that's something that could have gone into new releases or news, but I'm going to fucking pre-order that son of a bitch, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll probably get that too. I mean, shit, this is 30 years for Master of Puppets this year.
Yep, there you go, which is probably why they're doing it. It's the same guy who did some book on Jaws, and it was this exhaustive book on the movie Jaws, and it's just a real picture-heavy book, but with plenty of text. Anyway, heads up.
Alrighty. So apparently Nurgle from Behemoth is putting the finishing touches on a side project album that's going to be like a blues country folk thing, which has me very curious. Obviously not metal, so who knows? I don't know. Maybe he's been hanging out with Devin Townsend. I don't know.
Or David Vincent.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe these guys should form a band.
Yeah, I saw this too. I just assumed that I was talking to Buke about Behemoth a while back, and there are two things that I can say about Behemoth. One is I like them, I think, as much as the next guy, but also not unlike Buke, I also consider them a strangely somewhat overrated band. As weird as that sounds.
It's not weird. I'll say it all day. They're very overrated.
I mean, I don't know why people freak out about them like they do. I do think The Satanist is a really addictive record, and I have more than one of their records, and I think they're great. But go ahead.
Did you read Confessions of a Heretic?
No, I have that book, The Devil's Conquistadors, and I haven't opened that yet because I've been reading other stuff. Did you read it?
I read Confessions of a Heretic, and it wasn't laid out in like book form. It was basically one long interview.
That's kind of what I think Devil's Conquistadors is too, a little bit.
And so it was interesting, but not quite what I was expecting.
I do love them. I mean, I have to say, like, I was just listening to The Satanist last week, and I listened to it like 3 times the last week. It's a great record, but
yeah,
and I don't even know why I threw that out there. I won't be in a race to listen to this. He also like owns a barber shop in Warsaw or something like that. And it's not like a metal themed barber shop or anything, which is fine, but it's maybe he's trying to diversify. That's one of these ways these guys who do make an okay living, because they got to have something to fall back on eventually. Not the country music, but
yeah,
the barbershop and the beer. I'm just joking. They probably don't make any money off that beer.
So this past week, it came to light that apparently Izzy Stradlin is going to have some limited role in the upcoming Guns N' Roses reunion shows. I'm not sure what limited role means, if that means he's only going to play on some of the shows, or if he's going to play on all of the shows, but only for like a couple of songs. If I had to pick a favorite member of Guns N' Roses, and it wasn't Slash because I love Slash, it would be Izzy. I think Izzy's like a badass, and you can't have a reunion without Izzy.
Well, they were also just this kind of classic. If you really go back and listen to the Appetite for Destruction, the way those two guitar players play off of each other is really cool. Izzy Stradlin, who, by the way, is my joke.
Yeah. Well, he did that. Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds.
That's right, yeah.
I got some of those, like, cassettes or CDs, probably cassettes, still lying around somewhere.
Vaguely attached to that story was a hint of an idea that the drummer might also get involved in a limited capacity.
I haven't heard that yet. Which one?
Stephen Adler.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see. I wonder if this is all really coming about because of the pressure, because people really are like, this is not a fucking reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're not booking the shows as fast as they'd hoped, because they were asking a big bill. They were asking like $4 million per show or some crazy thing. Yeah, it was something like that. I can't remember, but it's in the millions.
Wow. So some more big news this week. Last year, Skeleton Witch parted ways with singer Chance for different reasons, probably related to substance abuse. And they've been teasing us with not announcing the name of their new singer, but they've started working on new material. And they're getting ready they just finished work on a new EP. And this past week, they finally announced that the new singer is Adam Clemens from Wolfhammer. Now, I've been wondering, is this going to be somebody, known like Adam, or is it going to be some unknown? And I gotta say, if you're going to replace Chance, Adam from Wolfhammer is a fucking brilliant choice. My only concern is that I hope Adam is still with Wolfhammer, because I really like Wolfhammer.
I do too. They made my end of year list a couple years back.
Yeah. Their last album, made my list.
Crawling something, right?
Something into the Black Sun, yeah.
Yes.
Crawling into Black Sun. Was just a phenomenal album, and I loved it.
It was awesome.
So I hope this doesn't mean the end, or at least his end, with that band. But at the same time...
There hasn't been any announcements to that end or anything, though, has there, obviously? I mean, since you're just... Yeah.
No. Sort of like when Eddie left All Shall Perish to be with Suicide Silence, Buke's like, what's up with All Shall Perish? Yeah. Now I'm like, what's up with Wolfhammer? Because
when did that last record come out? The Wolfhammer one.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to hear what Skeleton Witch is going to sound like with him. That's awesome. I just hope it's not to the detriment of Wolfhammer.
Yeah, it's not clear if he was looking for a new job or if I was looking for a side job. But
George, you know what, boy, we're really mistaken. Clawing into Black Sun was 2014.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it just doesn't feel like 2 years ago yet because it's still early.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. That also means we'll get to see him, for those of us who are going on the upcoming tour, because they're part of the Abath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Abath. That's a killer. I'd say Abath, Skeleton Witch, High on Fire, and Tribulation. So we'll find out. We'll see what that's like.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And the EP will presumably be out by then.
Presumably.
Yeah, hard to say.
You gonna get this last one, Jay?
I do. This is not something that I would have thought I would have been really excited about, but Ace Frehley just is about to release an album of covers, and I'd listened to snippets of his last record, and I was like, oh god, it's just almost unlivable, I thought. But that stated, they're streaming a version, his version of White Room by Cream. If you know that song, it's a very popular classic rock song. It's on the radio quite a bit on classic rock stations, and it's really good. I mean, it was like it's a really solid, kick-ass cover. So while I'm not going to race out and buy this record, I'll be interested to see what the rest of it sounds like. And he also does really cool stuff too. There's like a free song on there that Paul Stanley sings on. I have to look. A couple of things were real heavy songs. I'll have to look at it again. But
Paul Stanley sings on one. That's interesting.
He sings on just the free song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called Origins Volume 1, and it's coming out on April 15th. And after you told me about this, I went and listened to the White Room cover, and I was pretty impressed by that.
I mean, it's good, right? I mean, it's not going to change your life, but it's kind of an accurate, heavier version of it.
Yeah, it's like a lot of times you hear a cover version of a song, and it's just not as like full and rich as the original. For example, anything on the last Danzig covers album. But this is a really like full and rich sounding cover of White Room. And like you said, it's like, wow, it's like up there with the original. It's really good.
I think you said it better than I could have, because that's a really layered, thick song. And it's like all the layers are there.
Yeah.
It strikes me as a hard song to cover.
I mean,
and get right.
If I hadn't been paying attention, I would have thought it was the original, because all the keyboards and everything are there, it sounded really good. So way to go, Ace.
Yeah, good for you. Hats off. I doubt that even when the record comes out, even if the rest of the songs are that good, I doubt it's anything I'd listen to a lot. But there's something of note as a kind of closet Kiss fan as a kid. Not even closet Kiss fan as a kid, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know Buke's not going to have an answer to this one because he's not a Kiss fan. But who's your favorite member of the original Kiss?
Paul Stanley.
Really? I'm Ace.
Without question. You're an Ace man.
I like Ace. Cool.
Yeah, I really thought Paul, and even up into the 90s and stuff, was just one of the premier rock singers. And he sang all the songs I liked the most, and was cute and sexy.
I liked the Frehley's Comet that he put out with Rock Soldiers.
Yep, that's a good record.
That's a good tune and a good album.
And I think he and Paul Stanley's the solo records, the Kiss solo records, those are the two best records.
Yeah, man, that had like what's on there? Back in the New York Groove.
Yeah, and Speeding Back to My Baby, and
good album.
Snowblind and Ozone. Dave Grohl covers one of those songs, and it's either Snowblind or Ozone. It's like a B-side to a Foo Fighters thing that I heard online sometime.
Right on. All right, let's get into some new releases.
This week's new releases, here they are. Spend your hard-earned money now.
The first one this week is one that I cannot sell to you enough. This is the new Flesh God Apocalypse and their album King.
I think you can credit me for kind of looking out for it.
Yeah, when this was announced to come out, Buke says to me, hey, if there's a promo for it, please send it my way. So I was like, all right. I mean, I think we've talked about it in the past, but I was a fan of Flesh God Apocalypse and their first couple albums.
I'm trying to think of some of the albums right now. That the last one I really liked.
I think Agony and the one before that were the ones that I liked. And they kind of just sort of dropped off my radar for like one or two albums.
Oracles was the last one that I really liked.
And so when Buke said he wanted me to look out for it, when the promo came out from the label, I grabbed it and I sent it off to him, and I decided to give it a listen, and holy shit!
That I always know when George likes something, when his text messages are just like the way he just sounded there.
Yeah, I get excited, and I'm just like firing off messages a mile a minute, like, oh my god, you need to listen to this now, oh my fucking god!
I think it's the 2016 podcast record right now, because I spun it all week long.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
This isn't mine. Mine's coming.
Yeah, until the Thross and Blood album comes out, assuming it is released this year. Hint, hint, Joel. Until that time, Flesh God Apocalypse is definitely like fucking nailed down in place in my number one spot, because this album is so amazing. It covers so many areas. Before they were just a technical death metal band, but now they've got orchestral elements. They've got clean vocals that are like power metal.
It sounds like Machine Head sometimes.
Yeah, and then there's the operatic track. It is such a diverse album and so just like different than everything else. I just absolutely love it.
And it's engaging too. I mean, it's like the riffs are cool. There's cool hooks on it. I couldn't agree more. When you freaked out about it, I was like, okay, I'll grab it. You know, it was in the box, so I downloaded it. It is the 2016 release that I have spun more than any other so far, and which is not saying a lot this early in the year, and that's not to pick on it, but it's also got a variety of addictiveness to it too. I'll put it on quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
when I'm
pretty
bored
much whatever you want, it's on there.
It's on there. Yeah. And right now, like when I'm in the car and I can't think of anything else to put on, that's my go-to record right now. So,
yep, me too.
Yeah, dude, highly recommended.
And then there's this next one that I'm sure Buke is just piddling himself over because he's been waiting for it for so long. This is the new Obscura album, Acroasis.
Yeah, I found these guys, a couple years ago, but then I forgot about them.
We saw them on I think it was the Children of Bodom tour with Devin Townsend and Obscura and Septic Flesh.
What brought my attention back was Alkaloid. And I started really listening to Obscura. And that was right at the time when my love of everything tech death took off to a fever pitch. And this album takes that in the pure, accurate, technical playing. It's a masterpiece of an album.
Awesome.
I don't think I've used that word on the pod. This is a masterpiece. Stamp it on the label album.
Do we have a promo?
Oh, yes, we do.
There's a promo. Okay.
It's George. Say what you always say.
It's in the box.
It's in the box.
Been in the box.
Yeah, this is definitely another good album from them. I'm still gonna have to go on record and say I like Alkaloid better. But that's just because it's a different kind of tech death.
Yeah.
This is still an incredibly awesome tech death album, and I don't want to take anything away from it, even though I just did.
I'll start listening today.
Amazing. Absolutely. It's playing like when I describe seeing Revocation live. Dave and his playing and the guys from Obscura, I have no clue how to play a damn guitar. But when I sit back and I hear this stuff, I'm just mouth agape. I look like a largemouth bass. I'm just
me too, and I
blown
do know
away by this.
Yeah, it's like a whole other thing. There's like guitar playing, and then there's like this. I mean, I haven't heard this record yet, but I know Obscura and I know Alkaloid and just the tech death guys. Yeah, it's some other strange. It's like a guitar engineer or something. I don't know what the fuck.
And also, don't forget the vocalist Stefan is in Thulkandra, George.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Thulkandra. And they'll be at Deathfest, so yes!
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I totally forgot that he was in that.
Yeah, Thulkandra is more of like a dissection worship kind of thing, and it's badass.
Buke has been mentioning this record for a while, so I'm glad it lived up to your expectations.
100%.
Cool.
Moving on to one that I'm guessing nobody has listened to is the new Rhapsody of Fire album, Into the Legend. Insert crickets.
I think that from now on, you should say Rhapsody, and we should, in union, say Of Fire.
I never thought I would get to this point with this band, George.
Me neither. I don't even know which one this is. Is this the Fabio one? It must be, because it doesn't say Luca anywhere.
Yeah, Luca is not in this. Because he has
Luca Turilli's Rhapsody,
yes.
yeah. So this must be the Fabio one. I don't even know, because once the split happened, I stopped caring.
Yes, this is the Fabio one.
Okay, moving on. This next one is pretty badass. I can attest to that. This is the new album from Seven Sisters of Sleep, and it's Ezekiel's Hags. I got into these guys last year. I found them on the Bandcamp page for that local label that Noisem is on. It's like A389 or something like that. And so I picked up one of their previous albums, and it was cool. It's sludge. It's heavy. This new album, though, is pretty fucking awesome. In fact, DC Heavy Metal Chris even mentioned it as his current album of the year. So you should definitely check this out. It is pretty awesome.
I would call it sludge with a slightly more post-metal hardcore vocal to it, like Think Isis or something like that. Or maybe a little bit of Pig Destroyer type vocal in it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm not as thrilled about on this, but from this band, is the fact that his vocals are obviously affected. It's not death metal vocals that you can just go,
Yeah, I agree.
He's yelling with some sort of like filter on there, and I hate it when people do that. But the fact is, it's still, despite that, it's still a really good album. So, I'd like to see them move away from that.
But I am totally on board with you about that. The one thing that sort of detracted from me on this is the vocals. I've listened to it a couple times, and it came into my view in a really weird way, and it was some band, I think a band I like, featured it on their Facebook page. And I was like, okay, I'll go check that out, because I didn't have their first record like you did. They're on Relapse, so it's probably somebody else on Relapse. But in any case, all that stated, I recommend it as well. I mean, I don't like to not recommend a band based on their vocals, because some people might find certain things more palatable than me. I thought it was this particular vocal in mix with their style is a little funny for me, but I'm going to keep spinning it because I like it enough to try to buy into it. And I've had success in the past with records like that where I'll be like, fuck it, I'll just keep going until this makes sense to me.
Yeah, the music is just really
great,
interesting. It's heavy and it's sludgy, but there's
some fucking grind in there too, dude. I mean, it's all over the place.
And there's just like these like shifting patterns of like, there's like, you know, the more you listen, the more you hear kind of thing. And it's like, I can see why this would be an album of the year.
Exactly. It's not like the Flesh God record, but it's kind of in its way all over the map too. They suddenly they'll just take off like a rocket.
Yeah.
It's cool. People should be checking these guys out without question.
Yeah.
You know, our small caveats are small caveats.
Next up is the band 8 Bells and their new album Landless. I got behind this one when I found out that their new drummer on this album is Ray from Immortal Bird and Throssenblot.
Oh.
And the album does not disappoint. It is fucking cool.
News to me. Okay. I'm
at a loss to how to describe it. So just go give it a listen. It's up on Bandcamp. Check it out. I'm sure you'll like it. Unless you don't. And the last new release is one that I've been waiting for. This is the new Rotting Christ album, Rituals. And as expected, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've only been through it once so far, and it's got a very... they're a Greek band. And so right off the bat, this music makes me think of like Greek centurions.
Oh, right on.
Sort of like lined up and like stomping their like spears into the ground and batting on their shields and just fucking chanting and getting into this music. And I don't know, that's a dumb description, but that's what comes to mind, and it's cool. I like it, so give it a listen.
Were these the guys that down in Florida recently, there was this incident at a show where there was...
No, that was...
Impaled Nazarene, maybe?
No, it wasn't Impaled Nazarene, it was Vital Remains.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but they've gotten kicked off of a tour by Dave Mustaine before.
That's correct, I remember that.
Yeah, Dave Mustaine was like, he was in Greece, which is a fucking slap in the face.
Yeah.
He's in Greece and he's like, kick them off the bill.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that. I remember that well.
Okay, let's do our top 3.
What's your top 3? What's your top 3? What's your 3 this week?
I was, George asked me the other day, hey, Buke, you got a top 3 for this week? And I was deep in a very busy incident at work, so I couldn't get back to him. But then Jay, I believe, jumped in with top 3 side projects.
Hell yeah.
And we all, I think, interpreted it a little differently.
And
so
you know...
it'll be interesting to see what we come up with.
And when you first suggested it, I was like, oh yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be easy. Not.
I had a hard time, too.
As soon as I started thinking about it, I was like, shit.
Well, usually my suggestions, as probably is the same with all of us, I have one in mind, like one of my answers. And I'm like, we should totally do that. And then you're fucked because you're like, well, that's the only one there is.
Yeah.
That I can think of, which is not true. But
yeah, when you mentioned it, I had one that popped into my mind right away. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then that didn't even make my list.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, then you had some success then.
Yeah, I had to literally like go through my music collection like on my computer and just go from band to band and go original band, side project, original band.
Yes.
And while this is not, I could probably give you a completely different list next week. This is my list for this week.
Well, let's roll right into it. I did have a hard time with this, and I have the feeling you guys will probably both say some things that I'll be like, fuck. But my first one is Hammers of Misfortune, and their album in particular called The Bastard.
I knew you were going to do them.
Did you really? Right on. It's a great record. It's a great record. There's a little bit of everything on this record. It's a concept record, and it involves two guys who at the time were both in Slav Fag when this record was made, and then one of them branched off and just kept Hammers of Misfortune going, and the other one eventually dropped out. So if you're a Slav Fag fan, definitely I recommend this because John, the singer from, or not John, Mike, the singer from Slav Fag, sings on this and plays on this, and it's a very Slav Fag-y type record, but it's kind of a Man-O-War-y record in places. Some places it's a little thrashy. Anyway, Hammers, go ahead.
No, finish.
That was it. Hammers of Misfortune, The Bastard. Not real easy to find either, by the way. So you're gonna probably on iTunes, but it's not that easy to find.
Yeah, I got to go back and listen to them again. And I got to go back and listen to Slav Fag again as well, because I remember I got a promo for Atavism. I'm not sure how you say it.
That's a good one.
And I remember really digging that. And then I never pursued that anymore. So I got to go back and check them out again.
That is probably one of my favorite records by them. That one, ironically, that you just mentioned. And also, when I used to work at a library in San Francisco State University, and Mike, who is the main writer and basically the main guy in Slav Fag, used to come in there because he was pursuing a philosophy degree. And it was right when Atavism came out too. And I just know it was all his philosophy stuff if you read the lyrics. So.
Yeah.
Duke, what's your number 3?
There's a time we just talked about a power metal band in new releases, and me being the podcast resident power metal guy here, there's a side project that released 2 albums by John Schaefer of Iced Earth.
Almost made my list, brother.
Me too.
Really?
Well, it depends on which one you go with.
Well, John Schaefer and Hansi,
Yep.
the lead singer of Blind Guardian. They did a side project called Demons and Wizards.
Yep.
Their second one to me was a disappointment, but their first album, Demons and Wizards, I loved.
Yeah, that almost made my list.
That's me too. It was of high consideration. The second record came out significantly
in
later than the
2005.
Yeah, it was like quite a good few years after the first one, and it was, I think, meant to kind of cash in on how good the first one was. That's an extremely solid 90s, I think it was, side project, and it was
it was well loved, and it's cool because I like when side projects are something different, or when it's 2 side projects where you pull in a bunch of like all-stars.
But here's the thing about Demons and Wizards.
Richard Christie was on drums.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I feel like that Demons and Wizards, almost more than any other side project I can think of, brought in the 2 strengths of both of those guys.
100%. 100%. And you know the drummer, you guys know the drummer, Bobby Jazmbeck, whatever his name is?
Jarzambek?
Yeah, he was the drummer on that album. He drummed for Halford and Riot. And also recorded and toured with Fate's Warning.
Right on. Yeah, that's a great record, dude. The first one especially. I agree. The second one was disappointment, but awesome side project.
I had a honorable mention because this side project is also a cover band, so I couldn't justify putting it in my top 3, but I wanted to mention it, and that's Maiden United.
Great choice.
I actually forget which band he's from, but it's a cover band put together by some people from different bands, and they play acoustic versions of Iron Maiden songs, and it's just beautiful. It really is. But my number 3, Twilight of the Gods.
Oh, great choice.
Featuring Alan from Primordial.
This is where we're going to start doing that thing where we're like, what the fuck? You know, I just am going to miss so much here.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great choice.
I was just listening to Where Greater Men Have Fallen yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, my album of the year last year.
Yeah, I remember that. I have the vinyl.
Year before that.
Yeah, year before that. My God, how slow down time.
Yeah.
All right, without too much more comment there, it sounds like mine is actually somewhat similar to that-ish, George, in that it comes from that kind of vague group of people. And I wonder if either of you will choose this one. I still think this is a great side project featuring guys from Immortal, and I forget who else. I as in the letter I.
Yep, I was considering it.
Well, there you go. I love it. I thought it was really great. It's a little bit of a departure for all the guys that were involved, I felt. It's not really the kind of way they spend their time on a normal basis. And it's a really fucking solid record. A lot of fun to listen to.
Hell yeah. Not hell yeah. That's not on our list.
Yeah, absolutely not.
One of my favorite people in the metal world is one Dan Swano.
Oh, yeah.
Dan's done countless projects, and I could build a whole list of side projects that he's done. But he did one that George first turned me on to just because the album cover. He and I don't know how to say the guy's name, but the guitarist for Catatonia did an album, Anders Nystrom.
Yes.
They hooked up together and did a band called Diabolical Masquerade. And
Good choice.
They released a couple albums, but their Nightwork album was one of the first albums I got from George.
You could literally populate your list with Dan Swano. I'm not even, you know what I mean? Dan Swano is like his whole life as a side project, that guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
But this was one of the first albums that George got me, and it got me. I was attracted to it when I first was browsing CDs at his house because it's the Bone Church.
Yeah, such a good album on the Nightwork.
The Nightwork album, it's a great killer album. Like the Rider on the Bones.
Yep.
Oh man, I love this album. I have to go listen to it when I'm done.
No complaints here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
My number 2, Valenfire.
They were on my list too, and they were taken off.
Yeah, Gregor McIntosh from Paradise Lost, his side band, fucking brilliant.
Killer.
They ever toured here, George?
Probably.
Oh no, they were on that. Weren't they on Summer Slaughter?
They were on something, and I really wanted to see them, but for whatever reason, couldn't make it.
Yeah, that's a great. Any album, George? Did you say one?
I didn't specify an album, but I would have to go with A Fragile King.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you and I talked. When I found them, and I found them middle of last year. I don't know how I missed them, but you said you did like the first one better than the second.
Yeah, that's the one that's about his father.
Okay, Jay, number 1, side project.
And keep in mind that I kind of considered side projects similar to solo record, and so even though these records were made while this person was out of his main band, which was Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson's Accident of Birth and Chemical Wedding are 2 of the best metal records that were made in the 90s, without question. And I would call them side projects since they don't involve Maiden in any... Well, that's not true. Adrian Smith is on Chemical Wedding, but
yeah,
it's just 2 of my favorite fucking metal records, period.
I knew you were going to do that one, too.
I couldn't resist. And they really are. They're that great. I think that they have been on somehow 1 or 2 of those records has managed to work into any number of lists we've done here because I just like them so much. So
yeah, I wasn't sure whether to go with something like that or not, but yeah, I knew you were going to. I mean, I didn't know, but I expected you might.
It was the thing that first. It was the first title that came to my mind.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about this, Buke, what's your number 1, sir?
Yeah, people would think, Buke's probably going to go with the Pantera, Phil Anselmo's side project, Down or Superjoint. Which not today. If you've been listening to the pod, you know long enough that I'm a huge fan of this band. And Bloodbath was my favorite.
That was the one I was going to say.
That was the one I was thinking too. I was like, you have to do Bloodbath.
But dude,
going back to Dan Spano here.
For some reason, because we were so vague about the rules of this, I was going to say if he somehow does not put that on his list, because like either A, forgot or doesn't consider it a side. Yeah, okay. Well, good. Well, then
It's still the greatest find I ever found at George's, and he turned me on to it. They have been the band that one of them that I've listened to the most.
The other band that I expected to see on your list and didn't was Avantasia.
But the thing is, though, that could be like 75 different side projects for people.
Yeah.
I love Avantasia. Man, I love that.
All right, well, I'm going to give us our first overlap. So that means this one, my number 1, has been spoken by someone else. What is it?
What is it? What is it?
Is it Buke? Is it Jay? Who is it? Who has my number 1?
I think it might be the Bruce Dickinson stuff.
No, it won't be the Bruce Dickinson stuff.
What is it, Buke?
I haven't heard. George has talked a little bit, but not enough to be number 1.
Bloodbath, then.
Diabolical Masquerade!
Get out of here!
Yep, that's my number 1. I fucking love Blackheim, a.k.a. Anders. Nightwork, like you were saying, is just a phenomenal album. Phantom Lodge. Pretty much, what the hell's the name of the other one?
Raven Dusk in My Heart.
Yeah, and
Design.
Yeah, Raven Dusk in My Heart. And okay, Death's Design was a soundtrack, but so that was kind of like lame. But the other 3 albums are just fucking amazing black metal. Yes, Buke, black metal albums. And just the sound and the production, that to me is like 90s black metal. That's what it should sound like. If you're going to copy a black metal sound, copy the sound from these albums.
Awesome. You got yourself a blueprint.
Yeah, I cannot believe it. This is what we share. This is crazy.
Yeah, I was, believe me, it was almost impossible for me to keep a straight face when you said Diabolical Masquerade. I was beside myself.
There was, I remember those magical discovery moments, hearing all these albums through the years. The first time I put on Nightwork, it just instant click.
Oh yeah, it was just kind of different and awesome and well produced. So good. I'm glad it was on your list.
You have taught me well.
Yeah, at least something stuck.
Oh wow. Okay, Jay, what are you listening to, buddy?
pretty short list for me this week. With the number one thing on my list right now is Flesh God Apocalypse. I'm listening to that a lot. I spent the last week listening to a lot of old records, so I've just kind of been putting some Creator and some Slayer. And then, even though I had kind of forgot about it completely for about 3 days, I put the Abath record back in the other day, and that's been rolling with me. So really, I'm going to kind of rely on George's list to kind of bring me up to some speed on some things. So,
oh yeah.
But with that, what do you got rolling around? And I've been watching your posts lately, Buke, and you've been getting a little proggy in a nice kind of way.
I have.
Sucking up to John.
Yeah.
Our friend, a huge supporter of the show, Ricky Bonnie. Ricky Bonin reached out to me and blew me away with this recommendation. You guys remember the album last year from the guys in Crip Sermon?
Yep.
Sure.
Very classic, metal sound to it, like a new wave of British heavy metal type of classic doom sound almost.
Yeah, it was a great album.
Great album.
It was on my half-year list.
I'm really bummed that they're going to be at Deathfest, but they're not going to be on one of the stages we're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, take two of those members and put them in a classic death metal sound album
Okay.
band, and you get yourself Trench Rot.
That's right.
And their album, Necronomic Warfare. I have been addicted to this damn album.
Awesome.
Track 4, especially Mad Dogs of War. I'm just so damn hooked on this. It's the death metal that I like. I like either Swedish death metal or I like your classic style death metal, and that's exactly what this is. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome, dude.
And there was another one that I took from our friend. Hi, this is John. This is by Perihelion Ship. This is A Rare Thunderstorm in Spring.
Don't know that one.
This is a killer, proggy, with some death metal elements, like how Opeth does prog metal. So definitely check this out. A Rare Thunderstorm in Spring.
Excellent.
And I wanted to tip my hat to George for something last week.
Ooh.
Last episode, you mentioned Gygax.
Yep.
Yeah.
Critical Hits. The tabletop gamer in me has been loving that damn album.
I thought you would.
I have been. It's so, in every way, I love the cheesiness that people can call 3 Inches of Blood. I love this damn album.
I'm happy to
I
you like that.
absolutely love it.
I thought you might, because you like Gypsy Hawk.
Yes.
So.
2 more. I've been listening to a couple black metal albums this past week. One from a band Fuath, Fuath.
Interesting. I've been seeing a lot about that on Bandcamp.
Their album I.
Yep.
Good title, too.
And that also goes with another band, Wilderness King, and they're in Mythical Future.
I saw that on Bandcamp, but I did not give it a
Amazing.
good listen. What's that like?
Just in a killer atmospheric black metal.
Sweet. I'll give it a
in
listen.
The way that I really like it. So, for our friend in a certain black metal band that we like, it's too clean for him.
Oh, that wouldn't be Neutrino, would it?
I'm just saying. We're friends with a couple bands.
Yeah.
But,
Excellent. I'll check it out.
Yeah, definitely check out those two. So look at that. I almost kind of had a George-like list this week. Oh, and one other thing. The lead singer of Amon put out a playlist of some bands that have influenced them. This was a rock band, actually. Audrey Horne.
Yeah, those guys are cool.
Yeah, they're really, really cool. And the album Young Blood.
Yeah.
Where does that name come from, do you suppose? Audrey Horne, is that like an old...
I feel like I looked that up at one point because I was curious, because it's like,
it's
a woman's name, but it's a bunch of dudes. But
it sounds a little Lizzie Borden-ish or something. I'll look it up. All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, 2 more. These were ones that I found when I was out of town dealing with my grandmother in the drive and stuff. Egypt, their Endless Flight album.
Those guys are cool. Doom.
These guys are really cool. Like a Doom, but like a 70s style kind of mixed in with it.
Yeah, they're cool.
And it's one final album that is getting a lot of talk, and I'm going to absolutely butcher the name. George, this may be on your long list. La Dernière Srep. I don't know how
what
to
the
say
fuck? Spell it.
This is from the band I can't even say it. Shiolist?
Spell it.
CHTHE apostrophe ILIST.
I think it's Thealist, like Cthulhu. It's like CTH, like Cthulhu. So the C is sort of silent, so it'd be like Thealist.
Okay, well, leave it to me to butcher it and ruin their reputation.
No, man, dude, that's a tough one. I'm just guessing at that.
That's a tough one, yeah.
They're French, I believe, so.
But this album came out in January. I think this was another Ricky recommendation, and this album is blowing up. I'm seeing it everywhere online and on people's lists and stuff like that.
Cool.
So those are mine. But again, if you take something with you today, Wilderness King and Perry Hellion Ship, take those two with you, chew on it, eat it.
And Obscura, presumably.
Oh, and the Obscura. It goes without saying.
All right, so my list this week, I cringe. I actually asked the guys before we started, I was like, should I break this list in half and, only use half of it? Because I've got 20 albums for you again this week. It's been fruitful. And
it's been a while. We haven't done it.
How do you listen to 20? Are you like, I like track 1 and 2, on to the next?
No, I'm just constantly looking for every day I am looking for new music. And, some of this stuff is recommended to me. One of these was from John. One of these was from, I'm not sure who it was. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to remember because I looked back through my emails and I couldn't remember who it was because it was a couple of weeks ago. And some of this stuff is just stuff I find on Bandcamp. Some of it's stuff that's just new releases. And it's just been an incredibly good find these past couple of weeks. So, Mark, get your notepad ready.
Yeah.
Hey, remember he said he likes a challenge. And again, this is the point that I always remind people. Please, if you are on Spotify, type in Metalheads Podcast, and our loyal listener, Mark, puts together a playlist for every episode. So please support that for us, for him more importantly, and that way you can not have to have a 3-ring binder right next to you right now as George dives into his list.
Yep,
well, it's a real, true chance. George did all the hard work for you.
Exactly.
You can just go to listen to some bands that have a stamp of approval already.
Yeah, most of these you can find on Bandcamp, so that's probably where I found them. All right, first one, definitely a Bandcamp find. It's the band called Akhenaten. That sounds Egyptian. That's right. Incantations Through the Gates of Irkalla. It's kind of Nile-like.
It better be. That's a very Nile title.
Yeah.
What doesn't Nile have the?
They do. They do have it cornered. This is probably a little less brutal than Nile. I mean, it's definitely like a death metal kind of thing.
Oh, so this is kind of like a tributary to the Nile.
Exactly. Oh, that is such a good pull there, dude. And like, that's like a Brainy kind of thing. Good job.
Yeah, I know it is. What the hell's happening to me? We should do these afternoon pods more often.
Yeah. It's a little more orchestral than Nile. So if you like sort of bring the brutality back just a little bit and adds in a little bit more orchestral stuff, but it's cool if you like that sort of thing. I'm going to move on as quickly as I can through this list. Next one is called Ancestors' Blood and the album Hyperborea. It's a pagan black metal. This is one that somebody told me about, and this is the one I can't remember who told me about it. It was like, was it John or was it Greg or was it Rick or was it Matt? I don't. Somebody told me about this and I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry. I didn't have time when I was doing my notes today to I tried looking back through my emails and stuff. I couldn't figure out what it was, but somebody told me about this band and it's good. It's like I said, it's a pagan black metal. The music is really awesome. The vocals are, what you expect from pagan black metal. But the music's really good. Kind of, sort of like the Seven Sisters of Sleep. The music, if you just like give it a quick spin, you're not really getting the full thing here. But the music's really cool. Next up is one that it's a band that I had heard of, and I'd sort of forgotten about them. And listener Greg pointed out that I should pick up the vinyl, and I did. And this is for a band called The Angelic Process. And the album's called Weighing Souls with Sand. This band hasn't been around for like 7 to 8 years. The guy, it was like a guy and his wife that did this band, and it's sort of a experimental ambient drone noise sludge kind of thing. And something happened. Like he did something and hurt his hand, and he wasn't able to play anymore. And ultimately, he killed himself.
That's quite a finish to that story.
Yeah. So guy's dead. No more music forthcoming. But somebody just did a vinyl release for it, and Greg said, "Hey, you should check this out." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." and I was listening to it, and it was really kind of relaxing in a heavy sort of way. And so I pre-ordered the vinyl. Next up is a band that came from the ashes of another band, so a phoenix of sorts. The previous band, you may have heard of them, Acker Cocker. This is three of the guys from that band and their new project called The Antichrist Imperium, and their self-titled album. It's sort of a progressive Black Death. I really love the guitars on this album. They're really like clean and tight and well produced, and it's just a cool album. Next up is a band called Awe, A-W-E, and the album Providentia. This is a Greek atmospheric black metal band. There's only like 3 songs on the album, and they're all between 14 and 20 minutes long. Atmospheric black metal, kind of, nothing out of the ordinary there. It's just kind of cool. Found it on Bandcamp. Next up is a Viking black metal band called Helheim, and an album that I'm not going to pronounce well. It's Raunijar. Not even going to try to pronounce that. It's very, it's like Viking stuff with a lot of pagan elements, a lot of cool like tribal drumming stuff and clean vocals mixed with like traditional black metal kind of screaming and heavy stuff. Really good album. Next one surprised me because I'd never heard about them before at all. It's a band called High Inquisitor Woe, W-O-E. And their EP, Liquid Times. I found this, surprise, on Bandcamp. And this is like sort of a more traditional doom. Somebody on Bandcamp likened it to Reverend Bazaar, which is, of course, an incredibly awesome doom metal band. There's only like 3 songs on here, and each one is like double the length. So like the first one's like 4 minutes long, and the second one's like 12 minutes long, and then the third one's like 20 some minutes long. And it's like clean vocals, doom. It's really quite good. It's not all slow. There's some like faster moments and stuff. So I highly recommend this one.
Oh, that's a good title. I like that title, Grand Inquisitor Woe.
High Inquisitor Woe.
High Inquisitor Woe.
Yeah,
cool.
that's really cool. Next up is a band that I thought they were funeral doom in the past, but not so much now. They're called The Howling Void, and their new album, The Triumph of Ruin. This is an interesting album. Like I said, I thought in the past it was more funeral doom, harsh vocals. This is very atmospheric gothic doom. There's a lot of pretty stuff going on, but there's still heavy stuff going on. A lot of the vocals, from what I recall, are clean. So I think I think it's just one guy, actually. And I think he's just sort of progressing into a newer style. So definitely check that out. It's also on Bandcamp. Next up is one that I know for certain was recommended to me by our friend John. This one is Karnon, Karnon, however you pronounce that. These guys are from Montreal, and their album, actually I think it's an EP, Le Temps Sombre. Sounds French-Canadian. Kind of a progressive black death metal. Of course, if John's in on there, there's probably something progressive about it. And I liked this. This was my shoveling music for the snow we had a couple days ago. It's actually a pretty pathetic snow, but I did manage to go out and do some shoveling. Next up is a band that I was having a conversation with Rick about last night, listener Rick. This is a band called Ketzer, and their new album, Starless. This is their 3rd album. They're a black and thrash band from Germany. And shortly after I bought it on Bandcamp, I got a tweet from him saying, "Hey, Ketzer, is it me or I'm paraphrasing here, is it me or does the singer for Ketzer sound just like the singer for Tribulation?" And so I went and I did a side-by-side of like 2, a Ketzer song and a Tribulation song. And it blew my fucking mind. It was like identical. And I even like went and looked it up and like, nope, it's not the same singer. And so we had a brief conversation about that. At first he was kind of liking it, but then he sort of flip-flopped and was like, nah, this is just a ripoff of Tribulation. But so far I still have a check mark in the like column. I felt certainly that the vocals do sound like Tribulation, but I mean, they're harsh vocals. There's not a lot of, wiggle room there. But the music is very produced. I could almost hear a different kind of singing over this album. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's good. It's not really black metal. It's not really death metal. It's not really thrash. I'm not really sure what to call the music, but it's harsh vocals over top of it, and it's kind of cool. So check it out. See what you think. This next one is a band that I just discovered yesterday, and the band is called The King is Blind, and I believe it's their first full length. It's called Our Father, and the band name and the album title both are like, what's that? That sounds kind of cool. Let's check it out. And it turns out one of the guys in the band is Paul Ryan from Cradle of Filth, and it's a really well-produced album, kind of vacillates back and forth between death metal and black metal for me. Like, the very first song was more like death metal a la like Amon Amarth, but then the second song was a little more like Cradle of Filthy, screechy, blackish. So certainly not a one-trick pony. It's cool. I haven't gotten all the way through the album yet, but I wanted to give it a mention because so far I'm really digging it. I feel like I've been talking for an hour now.
It was fun to watch Buke smile when you stumbled on Amon Amarth a little bit there.
Amon Amarth. Next up is a band called Orkan, Orkan, and their album Liv Laus, Livlaus. This is a blackened thrash band from Norway. It's their second album. I wouldn't say there's anything overly remarkable about it. It's just kind of a cool album that I found on Bandcamp. This next one, I know Will is a fan, and I'm almost positive that Buke is a fan as well. This is a death metal album, so perk up your ears, boys. This is Pile of Priests and Void of Enlightenment.
Yeah, I told you about this one, and Will may have also told you about it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I am really liking this album. I don't listen to a lot of death metal these days, partly because death metal's not really doing a lot of innovating right now. And this isn't particularly innovative either, but what it is a throwback to the old school. This is like early 90s death metal, so it's more of like a thrash album with harsh vocals. But the production and the guitar work in particular is really cool, and it's just it fucking kicks ass. So I am definitely behind Pile of Priests. This next one is questionable as metal, and in fact, I may have even mentioned it as poo-pooing that people put this on year-end lists. This is the band Publicist UK and their album Forgive Yourself. I was very curious about this because I kept seeing it on people's lists, and I gave it a brief listen and wrote it off because it didn't sound like metal at all. And then I looked into it a little further, and like, there's a dude from Municipal Waste in this band, there's a dude from Revocation in this band, but the music isn't particularly metal. It's kind of heavy at times, but what it sounds like to me is a mix between Sisters of Mercy and Joy Division. And how can you not like either of those? Even if you're a metal fan, you got to get behind those bands. So I've been listening to that one a lot, and it's cool. I don't know. It's weird, but it's definitely cool. Next up, I'm including this band because they're from Trondheim, Norway, and I've been there. So anytime I see a band from a place in Norway that I've been, I have to mention it. And not only that, but they're actually kind of cool. I don't know how to pronounce the band. I'm going to say Saligia, which is Saligia. And their album, which I'm also going to butcher, I'm going to call it Phonix. It's Phonix, but there's like a little squiggly over the O, so it could be Phonix, or I don't know what the squiggly means. So there you go. But they're listed as a black metal band, but they're not at all like traditional black metal. The vocals are almost spoken, but with sort of a slightly harsh edge. Anyway, they're a cool band, and I'm pretty sure, I think they're on Bandcamp. I don't remember. There's so many of them I forget, but I'm pretty sure they're on Bandcamp. So give these guys a listen. If you're looking for something that's, not ordinary, check it out. Next up is a funeral doom band. I'm going to say UN. It's just UN. UN. And their first album, The Tomb of All Things. First of all, how can you not want to hear a band with an album title like that? The Tomb of All Things. And it's a U.S. funeral doom band. It's what you would expect. It's slow. It's heavy vocals. It's good. It's probably, I would call it at least above average for funeral doom. Check it out. Next up, we have a band called Undersmile. Not sure what an undersmile is.
It sounds dirty.
It does sound dirty. And their new album, or latest album anyway, Anhedonia. They're a UK drone doom band. They actually have two female singers. I mean, I think they do other things in the band, but besides just sing. But and I was telling Jay about them, and it's kind of like relaxing, droney, heavy music with occasional screaming, and like the clean vocals that they do are sort of slightly out of sync.
Yeah. I listened to it when you told me about it, and it's actually really cool. I mean, it's real. I don't want to say arty. That's a shitty word. But there's something dissonant about the vocals.
Yeah, it's like you can make out what they're saying, but it's just out of sync enough that it's got it's almost like an echo to it. But it's like actually two different people,
like trippy or something. I mean, that's a shitty way to put it too. But yeah, it's cool stuff though. I like that one.
Yeah, it's chill. Next up is one that I got partly because it was free, but I always, even when on Bandcamp when they're free, I still throw them a buck or two. It's a band called War Chief and their self-titled album. It's a stoner sludge kind of band, but what stuck with me was that my very first impression, and follow-up listens is not so much, but my very first impression was that the singer reminded me of Neil Fallon from Clutch. If not so much in the sound of his voice, but in the way he sings.
Is it? I just heard a snippet of it, George. That's spot on.
Thank you.
Spot on.
So, yeah. So I was just like, that's cool. I'll throw him a couple bucks and get that just to support him. That's a cool name, War Chief. Okay, two more. Promise, only two more. This one's called Watercolor Ghosts, and their self-titled album. Not technically a metal band, I guess. They're an Australian band, and they're sort of almost more alternative. But you don't hear a lot of, at least I don't. I always say these things like, oh, there's no more rock bands. And of course, obviously, there are rock bands out there, and I'm just not hearing them. But you know, it's just not in like popular music, and of course, it doesn't come past my ears very often. But it's sort of alternative. And what made me buy this album was my first impression that the singer reminds me at times of Maynard from Tool. He sort of has that same just sort of the same like meter to his vocals at times.
Right on. Yeah.
And so I was like, and it was kind of spacey, and there's clean vocals, and it was just sort of a nice palate cleanser for me, so I picked that up. And the last one, if you've still listened to the end, is a Vancouver jam doom band called Wiser Fool, and their second album called All That Is Left Behind. It's doom, but it's not dark doom. It's kind of more of I say jam because it's a little more upbeat kind of doom. Almost witchcraft-like.
Or maybe like Elder, which I consider a vaguely doomish band.
Yeah.
But not at all, you know what I mean? Stoner doom, I guess you could call it.
And their first album or EP, I can't remember whether it was an EP or an album, I didn't buy the first one, was a little more traditionally doom. And then this album was a little like brighter, but it was very cool. And, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, I'm buying that. So I picked that up, also on Bandcamp. Give it a listen. And if you're still with us, welcome to the last half of the podcast. Is anybody out there? Out there.
So rouse yourself from your slumber.
Yes. Awaken from thy slumber and lend me thy ears.
You definitely can't say that you walk away from this podcast every week not having new shit to check out.
You better. Yeah. If you're like, oh, there's no music out there to check out, well, I don't know what you're doing.
I gotta say, I feel self-conscious about coming in here with this many albums, but I mean, this is my obsession. It's what I do. I'm not trying to outdo anybody by having more albums or anything like that. It's my obsession. I can't help myself. I'm always looking for new music.
I would wager that there are those who look very forward to this segment for that very reason, George.
Well, I'd like to hope so.
It may be few and far between, but there's like one or two out there.
If you're out there, let me know, because I really do feel self-conscious about doing this. I'm afraid, you guys are going to like roll your eyes and be like, oh, here comes Mr. Pretentious Pants.
No.
Never.
No, dude, that's why we do this pod, just to, introduce music to people. So
that's all I'm trying to do.
Yep.
All right. Well, moving on.
And it should say, with the tons of metal out there, Bandcamp, new release, iTunes, with everything, in stores, if it's getting mentioned here by you, check it out, people.
Yeah, it's worth looking into, obviously, yeah.
Think of me as your filter. I take it all in and I only shit out the good stuff. All right, let's move on to our classic album.
Mine was based on a band that I've been revisiting because I wanted to, they're going to be at Maryland Death Fest. I hadn't listened to them in a while, and I was reminded how good they were this week. Hirax, Hirax, for those of you who don't know, I already mentioned Hirax earlier in the hour. And they have a record, their original Metal Blade release, 1985 release, Raging Violence. The songs are almost of a punk length because they're all pretty short songs. But this is a super fucking heavy band, completely metal, great singer, totally worth your time if you ever never check these guys out.
Yeah, I remember them. They were on their early '80s Metal Blade stuff. I think it's funny that you and I know a lot of these different bands, and we both have different pronunciations for everything.
How do you say that one?
I say Hyrax, which is probably wrong.
No, not necessarily. But I've always wondered where you got your pronunciation of Voivod.
I make it up.
Okay, because I mean, it's so distinct that I assumed maybe you'd heard an interview and one of them.
Well, I have heard Voivod. I sort of go back and forth depending on how my mouth works.
Yeah.
Between Voivod and Voivod.
Do you know where the name comes from? Does it mean something?
They made it up.
Okay.
It's the theme of the early albums is the race of voivods or voivods that they're a militaristic race that are out conquering.
It's just from their science fiction world. Gotcha. But
I think Away came up with it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And I think Voivod. Damn it! See, now I don't remember. I always question which is the way I know. I've listened to the band say it, and I was like, okay, that's how you say it. But now I can't remember which one it is. Voivod or Voivod? I think Voivod.
Maybe I'll take a homework assignment and see if I can find one of them saying it.
But I say Saxon, and you say Saxon.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think you're right. I think you're right on that one. That feels more right to me.
And I'm not trying to correct you or anything. I truly. Because, growing up in the 80s, a lot of this stuff, it was just in a vacuum.
Yeah, I read it in a magazine or on a record cover, and nobody was there to talk about it.
Yeah, there was nobody that ever said these things out loud, and so there's all these albums and band names that I'm just like, you say it in your head, and then when you say it out loud, you kind of look around to see if anybody was correcting you or something. And
I really do think your Saxon is more probably historically correct. It's interesting. We can do a whole show about that sometime.
Yeah.
Vic, what's your classic?
Oh, well, since I saw the script earlier and I saw that Anvil was going to be on it, got me, again on an early thrash kind of kick. And I stumbled upon an album that kind of caught me. I listened to it a couple times through. Doesn't look like it was received too well, but this is the '84 release of Fist Held High by Thrust.
Oh, dude!
Yeah.
Tonight's the night the posers will die! I know that one. I've got that on CD.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember it.
That's an old early Metal Blade one. And
two fists bursting out of a morning star, grabbing, with their gauntlets on, grabbing the band logo.
Yeah, man. I love that song, Posers Will Die, off that album.
Yep, the last track, yep.
Yeah. Not too politically correct these days, but in the 80s, man, fuck those posers.
A Fist Held High, Overdrive, Freedom Fighters. So
it brings a little tear to my eye hearing you bring up that album. I'm like, I've done my job. I've raised him well.
Yep, because that one, you just ain't stumbling across that album on websites and stuff.
No, that's a deep album. The whole album, deep.
Yeah, that's about as deep as it comes.
Yeah, pretty much.
That should cover my classic and deep track for the.
Fair enough.
It really should.
Just randomly choose a title in your.
All right, my classic album it's not all that metal. Granted, the guy that put it out is sort of, he's related to metal, and the band he was in before, while hard rock is still favorited by metal fans. And that band was Thin Lizzy, and this is the sometime guitar player, and now deceased fellow by the name of Gary Moore, and his probably most commercial and reviled album, Wild Frontier. And for me, this was the first Gary Moore album, and I fucking loved it. It's not really, it's more of a hard rock kind of album. The big song for me off this album was Over the Hills and Far Away. It's got sort of an Irish flair to it.
Which, an Irish dude.
Yeah, particularly the album title track, Wild Frontier, definitely is a bit reminiscent for Ireland. It's just a cool album. I was listening to it the other day. It's good stuff, and he's no longer with us, so we're not going to be seeing anything more from him. But this is definitely a classic.
I think did he die last year, or was it the year before that?
Actually, it's been a while. I think it's been more like probably 4 or 5 years.
Oh, that long?
Yeah. Let's see.
I saw a pretty good video the other day. Gary had a lot of cool guitars, and I saw some cool video the other day of his guitars. They're just He had like a 59 Les Paul and all this different shit.
5 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
2011. In fact,
I was ready to tell you, like, see, you're wrong. I swear to God, because I thought it was like last year.
February 6th, 2011. So just over 5 years.
I remember it well. He was on tour. I think he died in a hotel room overnight.
Yep, he had a heart attack.
Yeah. Wow. 5 fucking years. Jesus.
Time flies, man.
Doesn't it, though?
Not for people that are dead, though.
Yeah,
All right, vinyl purchases.
I got a couple. Based on an article I had read in the New York Times Magazine recently, they did a little article about Dope Smoker by Sleep, and I didn't have that on vinyl, so I picked up a nice copy of that. And it is nice because it's double album copy with this really killer blue black splatter vinyl. Picked up a copy of Sons of Northern Darkness.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jake.
Yeah,
can I tell you about that album? Drunk Matt, who was featured on the pod here, him and I get together a lot and, drink beers and hang out. Can I just say that's not really an album to play for other people who aren't in the mindset to listen to it? Because I put it on thinking it would be background noise, and within minutes he's like, Buke, you got to get this off of here.
And I believe it too. I'll say this, and the article in the New York Times even said that it's an album that, in all honesty, is a little bit of work, to listen to. So
yeah,
but it pays off if you listen to it. But it's sort of like a listen to it before you go to bed kind of record.
That was a good article.
It was a good article. Yeah, I sent that over to George, and it was just kind of like an opinion piece about that record. I picked up Sons of Northern Darkness by Immortal, which I did not have vinyl. Yeah, I was kind of filling holes this week. I picked up Seven Churches by Possessed, which was one of my holy grails. I'm still going to call that unofficially not purchased yet because I've got the Back on Black version. I'd like the Metal Blade version, which I think George has. And
I think I have the Back on Black too.
Oh, do you? Okay. I
think so.
And I also picked up a Back on Black Welcome to Hell, which I did not have on vinyl because there was a specific copy I was looking for. I finally got just by this one, and it's a double white vinyl with a bunch of old demos and other lost tracks on it.
Yeah, they have a lot of extra stuff on their reissues.
They do. Back on Black, you mean, or Venom?
Venom.
Yeah, they do. My black metal doesn't have any on it. I have the MP3 files, but that's just a straight up reissue. Mm-hmm. So, but I didn't understand. I was bad that I didn't have Welcome to Hell, so I picked it up. That's the end of mine. What would you pick up? Anything, Duke?
Yeah, like I said earlier, to honor grandmother, like she would have wanted it that way. I didn't honor her probably in the way she wanted me to, and go to the Golden Corral and load up. I got a bunch of albums in a killer record store in Charlotte, North Carolina, by the name of Lunchbox Records. A lot of the record stores that George and I go to, at least here, like Soundgarden, the big one, the one that started Record Store Day, they have a lot of albums where it's A through Z, and it's the same bands you kind of see everywhere else. The cool thing about Lunchbox is they had the A through Z, but it was just full of like 1 or 2 albums from like 700 different bands. So you had a cool selection to pick from. So I picked up Acid Bath, Pagan Terrorist Tactics. I finally got the Abath album. Guests of the pod here, I got Temple, The Moon Lit Our Path.
Sweet.
Killer, again, instrumental metal band. Finally got Bloodbath, The Fathomless Mastery. I should have got the album a while ago, but I was holding off just to find it cheap. Night Demon, Curse of the Damned, Slayer, World Painted Blood. I like the Slayer album. Running Wild, one of their more recent releases of Resilient. Mm-hmm. One of my top 25 albums of last year. Saviors, Palace of Vision. I got the Borknagar album, Winter Thrice. I'm going to butcher this one, but Karsh Angren. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Karach Angren, or however it is.
Karach Angren, This Is No Fairy Tale. And if you have never, guys, just sat, or anybody listening, just sat and listened to that album and just really pay attention to the lyrics, what a fucking dark album that is, man.
Yeah, those guys don't get enough coverage for how awesome they are.
Oh, that album is amazing. On the drive down, I heard When Crows Tick on Windows, the third track. And it's talking about his mother dying or something. It's, oh, man, haunting lyrics. And I checked off one of my wish list albums, and I was able to find a great used copy of Hammerfall Crimson Thunder.
Dude, this sounds like a good record store.
Yeah, no, that was a Discogs purchase.
Okay.
And this one comes from a thing I signed up for on Facebook, a thing called the Vinyl Edit, where after a couple of days of liking and disliking and you telling them what you want, they send you an album via text message every day. And I've kind of broke the system by actually sending in like long messages like, no, don't send me this. I'm a metalhead. Stop sending me shit. Well, apparently I've had people working for them who are metalheads, so they make it their primary mission to send me albums. So I received this Bathory Hammerheart.
Nice.
Finally.
Very cool, dude.
I've been passing on this for a long time because every time I've seen it before, it was the picture disc.
Yeah.
And
there was some run of the Bathory, just a Behemoth just did the same thing, and like they reissued everything, and like all was picture disc. There was some run. That's why you see so many of those in the stores.
Yep.
The on that Acid Bath record, which God, that came out like '96 or something. One of like my favorite songs from that year is on that record. It's called Grave Flower.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's a good song.
And it's so sad that they broke up after the bass player was killed, because that album was so amazing. It was like, it was really heavy and kind of screechy, but it was also very melodic. Singer Dax Riggs went on to go do non-metal stuff because he can sing. And if they continue...
What did he go on to?
He's just, I thought he had a band of some kind, but now I think he just goes under the name Dax Riggs. And it's just like singer-songwriter kind of stuff, not metal at all.
They're almost like a roots doom band. Is weird as that sounds. I mean, like a band who's like I think they were like around like when Sleep was around, and they're sort of responsible for what doom started to become.
Yeah, because they were a NOLA band, or from that.
region. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were from that region anyway. And I mean, like the song "Dead Girl," that's just like, what the hell's this? But it's so freaking awesome.
Yep.
So yeah.
2 years ago, I wore their shirt to Barbecue, and you got a real metalhead when they recognize that. And I got a lot of compliments for it.
You should have wore it to Barbecue last year when we interviewed Ben from Goat Whore. He maybe brought Sammy over.
Yeah.
That's funny too, because I was perusing one or both of your, probably George's, I guess, since you just got to be Discogs or something, and I saw that it was on there. And I've never talked to you guys about that record, and then I saw your T-shirt once, Buke, and I was just like, oh, those guys fucking know that record. That's awesome,
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's like the first time we've ever talked about it, because it's not a real obvious record. It's not on everybody's list.
Oh, that was... For a long time, that was like a go-to album for me. I fucking played the shit out of that album.
Yeah, that occupied a go-to place for me, too. Did you pick up any vinyl, George?
I did, as a matter of fact. And my very first one is the one that Buke also got, because we got it at the show. That was Theories and their album Regression. I also got the Borknagar Winter Thrice and a pretty blue vinyl. I finally, like 12 years after everybody else, finally got my pre-order of Slayer's Repentless. I had to wait because I got a green and black vinyl that's like an irradiation symbol, like Nuclear Blast, and it took they were so backlogged that it took forever, but that finally came.
That's a fucking wait, dude, because that record came in like October or September.
Yeah. I pre-ordered this like last summer and finally got it.
Jesus.
I just got Secrets of the Sky and their album To Sail Black Waters. I was surprised to see that issued on vinyl, so I snagged that. I got one of my Holy Grail albums that I've been looking for forever. Occasionally you see a crappy version come up on eBay or Discogs. I finally found a nice copy of Omen's Battle Cry.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been looking for that forever. You never hardly ever see it come up, and when you do, it's usually in a pretty shit shape. So this one was like, VG Plus near mint, and it's in good shape, so I was happy.
Did you get okay price on it?
$40.
Oh, yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I usually see it for like $100, so I was, for a quality copy at that price, so I just jumped on it.
And you have it in hand now?
It is in hand, yes.
And it lives up to the description of Very Good Plus?
It does. It's at least VG Plus.
Good.
Now is the part of the show where I make Jay sad.
Oh, God damn it. If you got another copy of Morbid Tales, I'm going to kill you.
Not quite that much, but I got Solitude Aeternus Adagio.
Fuck yeah.
That's a Robert Lowe.
Uh-huh.
Another one from the same band, I got Alone.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And another one from Solitude Aeternus, Downfall. So that's 3 Robert Lowes.
Yeah.
Let's go for the 4th, Candlemas Psalms for the Dead.
Dude, I didn't mention. Well, first of all, congratulations, dickhead. And then but I didn't mention the one you told me to order, Death Through Magic, which I did get.
Did you? Didn't you see Psalms for the Dead as well?
Oh no, it was Psalms for the Dead. I'm sorry, it was Psalms for the
So
Dead.
you did get it.
I just haven't received it yet.
Yeah. So that's why I pointed that out to you, because I was kind of feeling bad that I had it.
Yeah. Well, and those ones, those later era ones, and the Solitude Aeterna stuff, they all sound really good on vinyl too. Those are heavy records.
Yeah, Psalms for the Dead's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's good, and it was funny because a lot of people called the one before that kind of a masterpiece, but I like Psalms for the Dead better. So,
yeah,
dude, that's fucking awesome. Filling up, and hey, mad respect to Robert Lowe.
Yeah.
I wonder, have you heard if he was going to go back to Solitude Aeterna and keep that going, or what was the deal?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything at all, but I'd like to think that he would.
Because he's out now,
Yeah.
Which is also, was there a sample available of the new Nevermore stuff? I can't remember. I mean, it's the new Candlemass stuff.
No, there was just like that studio thing where they were playing some guitars.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, because I'm curious to hear. This singer sounds a lot like Robert Lowe, just based on like a live video I watched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's of that type, but I'm just curious to see in a real environment what it's like. Oh, dude, those are fucking great acquisitions, dude.
I have one more. This is my drop the mic, flip you both the bird, and walk away. Disillusion, Back to Times of Splendor, orange vinyl.
How?
Metal Blade, Germany.
Oh, right now. So was this in store? You didn't have to pay secondhand prices or anything?
Oh no, it's not secondhand, but it's directly from Metal Blade in Germany, so it was expensive.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, we were talking about it because that was Buke's. I'm not sure what it was. It was like your classic or something last week, and I
bands that we want can reunite.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I had mentioned seeing that it was being reissued, and I was like, I wonder if it's on vinyl. And it was. It's not reissued in the U.S., but Germany does have it. So if you go to the German Metal Blade, you can get it there.
Just the shipping.
Yeah, shipping's not quite as bad from Germany as it is from other places.
None of these Discogs are ever based here in the fucking States.
Yeah.
Well, I would say every 10th one is or something, but but George is right. If you're going to get it from Europe, get it from Germany. I tend to have my best luck with shipping costs from Germany.
Yeah, you can get it for like €7 or €8 as opposed to like 15 or 20.
Yeah, which is not bad at all. I mean, that might be. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is. It's probably like $12 or something.
Yeah. All right, let's do our deep tracks.
Mine is based on a vinyl purchase of a few weeks back that I was put on this morning before we spoke, and it is off of Into Glory Ride, Manowar's Into Glory Ride. And probably this isn't that deep. I think of it as deep because I don't hear people talk about it a lot, but it's Gates of Valhalla. Last song, side one. One of the great vocal performances of the 80s, dude. I mean, really, that song, that whole record, but that song, he's just in the stratosphere in places, and it's just beautiful. Plus, it's a heavy song.
You may want to check these guys out, George.
Manowar.
Yeah,
as I look around at the Manowar banners behind me.
With George snooping around Bandcamp, he could potentially miss a Manowar these days. He'd be like, "What? Guns and who? I don't know what you're talking about." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So like whoever's coming in through the front door, he never sees.
Yep.
You got a deep track, Buke, or are we going to go?
Yeah, no, I have a deep track. I'm going to honor my friend. Again, George said about the Thrust song, right, George?
Yep.
Yeah, you like that song.
Posers
Posers Will Die.
Yes.
There you go.
But my deep track is off of the introduction album to this band that I got into. From Scum Dogs of the Universe by Gwar. My favorite track off it, and surprisingly it is a deep track, is Love Surgery.
That's awesome, dude.
That's a great
You've
song.
never done a Gwar deep track. That's awesome.
I love that fucking song, and I love that whole album. I see it every once in a while hit me on Discogs, but a lot of them are in the UK, and they're pretty expensive.
There may not be a better album or a funnier album title than Gwar's Hell. Oh.
Yeah.
That's such a good fucking record title, dude.
Love these guys. But yeah, that's mine.
Right on. My deep track, as is so frequently the case recently, is one that I heard on XM radio while I was driving in the car, and I was like, nope, there's my deep track. And surprisingly, it's from Ozzy Osbourne.
Ooh.
It's from the Bark at the Moon album, which is probably one of my favorite Ozzy albums, and it's one of my favorites.
Can I take a guess at the song?
Sure.
Faster or slower?
Slower.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'm going to give up. Is it Rock and Roll Rebel?
Nope.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm giving up. I was going to say Center of Eternity because that's like a really good song on that record.
That would have been my second choice, but this is Waiting for Darkness.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. That's the closer, right?
Yeah. Oh, that song is so badass.
That was the last really good Ozzy closer, I felt, because he really kind of had that going for a while, like the Diary of a Madman and stuff. That's a really good, there are some couple gems on that record.
Yeah, that's the song that, that was my, like, teen angst song. One of them, I was just like, fuck everybody and hate the world, and I don't walk in the daylight, I wait for the darkness. And
good for you.
It was such a good song.
That's a very good closer, dude. That's awesome. That's a great choice. One of my teen angst Ozzy songs was "You Can't Kill Rock and Roll" for sure.
Yeah, I heard that one the other day too. That's a good one.
That's a great song.
Yeah. All right, that's just about the end. But before we get to that, I want to announce. I've already announced it on Facebook. I'm going to announce it here as well. Moving forward, the podcast is going to be hosted on SoundCloud.
What?
Yeah. In fact, it's already hosted on SoundCloud. So if you can't hear this, you're either deaf or you didn't switch over to SoundCloud.
You're in the wrong place.
Yeah. If you're on iTunes, if you're subscribed on iTunes, it should be transparent to you. I migrated the feed for iTunes to the SoundCloud or the RSS feed. So theoretically, you should just still be subscribed and continue getting them. If you took the RSS feed and plugged it into something else, you're going to need to update your feed. You can find that on the website. You can find that on Facebook where I posted it. I'd been using the old Metal Disciple feed, and it had been causing me problems because I keep trying to take that site down, and every time I do, I kill the RSS feed for the podcast. And I was inspired by Dan from Nine Circles when I saw his First and Last and Always on SoundCloud. It sort of made me go, well, I thought you couldn't put long things up there. And you can, you just have to buy the premium account, which we did. So all the podcasts are now up on SoundCloud. Go up there, follow us, like us, and listen to us on there. We've been flabbergasted with the amount of traffic that we've gotten in the last 3 days. It's been awesome and ridiculous, and we want to thank everybody out there checking us out on SoundCloud.
A boon. It's been a boon to us, for sure.
Yes. So check us out there, and, like I said, make sure to update any sort of feeds or anything you're using to point to the new address, because we will not be using the old one anymore. After that, make sure to check us out on Facebook, check us out on Twitter. I am Disciple OV Metal.
I'm at OPEF Fan, and Jay's at Catatonic J.
We're also on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Stitcher, which if you're on Stitcher, I also updated that, so that should be transparent to you as well. You can find us on wearemetalheads.com. I've gone through and stripped out all the old links on there and embedded SoundCloud players there as well, so that's kind of cool looking. So check us out, and you guys got anything to say before we go?
No, we're looking forward to we'll look for you folks next time. And as always, thanks for listening.
All right, we'll see you next time.